What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
I'm here, kinda.
And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Why does YouTube want me to meet the fishing community? Is that a thing? You guys see the logo? Is you guys' YouTube fishing today? Or is it just mine? It's like almost like the Bassmasters logo or it's a logo I've seen before. I don't know which one it is. It's like a fishing rod bent and then a fish. Is that everybody? Just me? Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Will Bird. This is Cold Beer Confessional. We didn't do a show last night. And we're back today. We're back today with more information. I actually shared this video on Discord and Telegram. I think it's actually a really good video. I didn't know a lot of this about Peter Thiel, but we're going to learn tonight, okay? So get out your notebooks. Get ready to take notes, class. We're going to learn today about Peter Thiel and how he grew up, what he believes, what he's into. Year-to-date stock price for Tesla is down almost 35%. We need to keep it that way. And, yeah, we'll check this out. This is from a channel called River Wand, and it's actually a really good video. Urals isn't fish. Let me see. Is mine on my... Oh, it just says premium on my thing. Oh, no, it's fish. There's like a guy running and jumping in a boat. Meet the fishing community, it says. Anyways, here we go. Peter Thiel. This is actually a really good video. It's kind of, it was put together over the last like 3 months, so it's not caught up on a lot of shit. It came out a month ago, but I just found it last night.
You hold a gun to my head. I'll vote for Trump.
By the way, they all have this really weird, awkward cadence. I don't know if that's the autism, but anyways.
I'll still be less involved.
In this video, we will talk about how Peter Thiel, a psycho...
The reason people don't use Asperger's anymore, and instead autism is a spectrum, is because literally they were... it was almost like autism supremacy. It was very weird. Like, we were singling them out and being like, oh, those are the good ones. It's very strange, but it's just a autism spectrum now.
Complex freak has impacted our entire country, helping win the presidential election, and is even affecting the entire world. Every movie villain has a backstory. In real life, the villains more often than not have a road paved by gold, while slave labor builds their entire net worth brick by brick. Of course, they take credit for every single achievement. They spend their actual time to fight any pushback in the system to make sure no lowly peasants reaches their level of success. To be a sick individual, it's gotta start early, and for Peter Thiel, it does. He was born in Germany and then moved to Ohio, and everything bad comes out of Ohio, except my savior LeBron James, of course. His corruptness started when his engineering father, Klaus, moved them to apartheid South Africa.
So I've been editing this video, and as I've been doing more research about Klaus, his father, I've come to realize that he's from the Nazi Party. He moved because the Nazis lost the war, and he was a Nazi. A large amount of Nazis moved to South Africa after the war, so much so that German was the second most spoken language in the region they were in.
Which...
Did you hear this? You know that Elon Musk's family fled to South Africa after a Nazi-adjacent party was thrown out of Canada, right? It's almost like they have almost the same upbringing.
As you could guess, he was not moving to South Africa to be oppressed, but to do the oppressing and make money off of slavery. There's another rich freak out there who learned how to oppress folks from South Africa, and sadly, we all know him. Elon Musk, the king of failing upwards, who we will talk about.
I don't in any way, shape, or form condone, like, South Africans taking back their country and, like, killing people, okay? But clearly the system was set up against them for years and 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 years. And there needs to be some type of, I don't want to say reckoning because it doesn't need to involve violence, but leveling of the playing field in their own country.
Later in this video, because the dynamic of their relationship is really weird. More on that later. Peter Thiel is white, so he went to private schools in South Africa that were whites only, and we'll see how he feels about black people later in his career. His father in South Africa got into government contracts and started mining uranium. And by him mining, I mean he was using slavery of the African people to mine these materials for the South African, Israeli, French, and Chinese government to build atomic bombs. And I'd say at such a young age, this is probably how Peter Thiel became demented, because the Africans that were working had no clue they were even building a uranium mine.
The magic of uranium.
They didn't even know they were working in uranium. In fact, he's going to show an article in a second, a story, a piece that was written that said you can literally see the apartheid from space, right? You have from the air, you can see where the low-income housing is near the uranium mines, subject to radiation, and you can see the wealthy people build up on this mountain out of the crosswind. Just watch.
Uranium stems from its property of radioactivity. It is this same property.
So the risk of radiation, yeah, they were never even told about them. There's quotes from that time period that said the workers were dying like flies, and the people that were running the entire operation knew. It was so bad that the white folks that would pay these workers would do it behind glass so they didn't get any radiation poisoning.
Could you imagine you have people working this mine with no safety equipment, but they have to be paid from behind glass? So the office workers, the white office workers, don't get any radiation on them? That's insane.
radon and its daughters is inhaled. Many radon
By the way, this was his dad, not him.
daughters are retained in the lungs, where their decay and release of alpha particles can damage living tissue. The hazard is, therefore...
Speaking of poisoning his workers, there's a famous quote that is, "You can even see apartheid from space." Because
This is it.
at apartheid South Africa, the work
Look at this. These are where the workers live, closer to the mine. This is where management lives, away from the mine.
workers' homes were always near the radiation, while the rich white folks' homes would be built on the mountains so no radiation would get blown into their neighborhoods. And obviously they did this because they were just poor labor class and their lives meant nothing to them.
Like, again, I understand, like, there's always going to be, like, management and workers and whatever, but to not even give them basic safety equipment and to be cataloging their deaths. Like, somebody in the company was keeping up with employees and payroll. And you have to notice this dying off and objectively ignore it. Like, these people are dying at unprecedented rates. Even if you play dumb and we're like, well, we didn't know about safety equipment. At some point, you have to be like, we've lost 30% of our workforce. While the people who don't go into the mine, we've lost 2 people of natural causes.
So his father was your usual scum, taking advantage of the apartheid system and slavery. Would you be surprised if I told you the apple does not fall far from the tree? Eventually, Peter and his family moved to California to run a gold mine. He spent the rest of his time growing up in California, and because Peter got private...
Peter Thiel is directly responsible for Elon Musk, basically, as well as J.D. Vance being the vice president currently.
education, he was very smart and always did well in school. In college, he ended up at Stanford, but because he wasn't socializing much, the boy was awkward and he had no social skills. You better believe if he was growing up today, he would be in the conservative pipeline, quoting Fresh and Fit and Andrew Tate. Just like any other social skill lacking rich white guy, he joined the College of Republicans. His classmates from that time were asked... My light fell off the wall.
A quick thank you to our sponsor, which is me, because I barely have any subscribers. But if you find this video interesting, please like and subscribe so one day I can make that video.
His classmates later on in life were asked what they remember about him, and they remembered him saying the whole apartheid thing wasn't that bad and it was overblown. His first real step...
So justifying it. So obviously he agreed with it in the fashion, right? That's where his family wealth came from. And then what did they remember about him was him justifying the apartheid of South Africa.
Into the public eye was writing his book.
It's not that bad. They inflate it. They make it seem like worse than it really is.
All the dive in life were asked what they remember about him, and they remembered him saying the whole apartheid thing wasn't that bad and it was overblown. His first real step into the public eye was writing his book called The Diversity Myth, written by Peter Thiel and David Sachs, who was a venture capitalist who was...
The Diversity Myth was his first step into the public eye.
Also born in South African apartheid. David Sachs and Peter Thiel have been in many partnerships and ventures together even to this day. In his book, The Diversity Myth, he blames women for rape and discussed how higher education was increasing multiculturalization and this would harm the future of America.
They blame women for rape and talk about how higher education promotes diversity and destroys America.
Wanted to be around a bunch of white guys 24/7. Peter ended up getting his law degree and tried to walk that road, but gave it up because when you're rich, you can just give up law. And then tried to trade stocks and failed miserably and gave that up too. After that, he went to daddy and relatives and pulled together $1 million to start a hedge fund in the late 1990s. Because we can all just find $1 million to start our own hedge fund. Now, if you ask me, this is a good old-fashioned American hard-working guy who did it all on his own.
So he went to his father and investors, pulled together $1 million to start a hedge fund. After law didn't work out, after stocks didn't work out, after his being an author didn't work out.
With no help from anyone. Within his hedge fund, he lost almost $100K immediately. However, remember, he was in California, he was in the Bay Area, he was in the right place at the right time and was able to capitalize off the dot-com boom. This is when his life actually starts to get interesting.
So the dot-com boom, right? When everybody thought everything was going to be a dot-com, if you invested right, I mean, you could have turned your investment from your relatives into multi-millions, billions.
Invested in FieldLink, which was a technology created by Max Levkin, who was an actual coder and created a way for people to transfer money between Palm Pilots. I'm not sure how many people are even old enough to remember.
So basically, FieldLink used these specific phones. Palm Pilots. I don't know if you guys remember what Palm Pilots were, but they were like phone mini computers. And it was a way to transfer funds between two Palm Pilots securely, allegedly. But while they were working on this, there was this other company, PayPal, basically, X, that was trying to do this same technology between all phones, right? Transfer money between phones, from your bank, into your bank, out of your bank, and between other people with the app on your phone. And they just so happened to be right next door. Okay, so Peter Thiel has this company that he found a coder, and the coder was working on the Palm Pilot thing, and he invested in him. Right next door to them is a company with Elon Musk where they're trying to do this with all cell phones, and they just happen to be in the same building, and that's how they meet.
Remember what Palm Pilots are, but they're like the iPhone before the iPhone. FieldLink later changed the name to Cofinity, which most people have probably never heard of. Out of this company spawned something that most people have heard of, which is the system they use to make secure payments. That is PayPal. One of the main reasons he decided to invest and make PayPal was because he thought it could be turned into an alternate currency to take down the US government. Another quick...
This is his own statement. When they're coming up with PayPal and he's investing in PayPal, Peter Thiel says that this new digital currency trade, whatever, could be used to take down the U.S. government. It's his own statement.
Quick note on PayPal, Thiel and Levkin, they employed no women and were proud of denying a candidate who said he enjoyed playing hoops instead of basketball. Sure, you could guess the reason for that. But back to Cofinity, this company was still only able to make payments between Palm Pilots, but literally in the building next door was the company X. Yes, there was a company named X, and you can probably tell where this is going. Company X was trying to do the exact same thing except across all phones. That company was ran by none other than Elon Musk, and this is where their...
So this is where they meet up, right? Because their companies are very similar, they're trying to do the same thing. They meet up together, and this spawns this relationship into PayPal.
Relationship begins. Musk and Thiel decided to partner up to bring this technology to all devices. Even back then, Elon Musk was a madman. He had aspirations.
By the way, Elon's always been obsessed with the letter X. That was his first company, right?
To make PayPal so big that no one could stop them, and they did this by paying people to sign up for PayPal. We're paying people to sign up for their product. Eventually,
so basically, if you signed up for PayPal, they would put $5 in your account, and people did it because it was something you could already use. There was all these other competing ones, but at the time, but they didn't pay you $5, so people signed up for PayPal. And then their big break is PayPal was partnered with eBay as their preferred way to pay, and then eBay basically buys out PayPal.
their user base became massive, with most of their payments coming from porn and gambling. They decided to shift into taking a small percentage.
Most people did it for seedy reasons when you first signed up, right? A lot of online gambling, a lot of porn sites that wouldn't take credit cards or weren't allowed to take credit cards or couldn't process credit cards, or your credit card company would deny it because it seemed like a seedy charge, right?
Of every payment that went through their app. Banks and other partners were not happy about this. Elon's idea actually worked. The company had grown so much that they became untouchable. Their partners in the banks just had to accept it. Elon Musk partnering up with Peter Thiel ended up having its own risks. Thiel and his rich, backstabbing snake board members of PayPal, which they called themselves the PayPal Mafia, decided to boot Elon Musk when...
So the board members at PayPal basically launch a coup against Elon Musk and drive him out of the company he feels like he's rightfully part of, like he helped found or whatever. They drive him out of that company.
When he was on vacation with his first wife. Back then,
while on vacation. I forgot that part.
Elon called it a coup, and he would later say in an interview he was so furious that he had thoughts of assassination. But of course, Elon has no spine, so...
He said in an interview that what they did to him, he was so upset that he thought about hiring people to assassinate them. The board that forced him out of PayPal.
Eventually, he came back to Thiel and said, "I'm sorry, Daddy, for being rude," which was the smartest thing he could do, because eventually Thiel would come to the rescue and save him. One of the most important parts of the PayPal situation was how Peter Thiel managed to stack $5 billion of straight cash.
By the way, he said that in an interview. Peter Thiel found a way. So PayPal takes a percentage of everything that happens, right? When you guys donate to me through PayPal, they take a percentage. You can get around that by doing the families and friends, but where mine is a PayPal business, I can't do that, right? I can't claim family and friends. they take a percentage. He found a loophole in the system, right? You guys know what 401ks and IRAs are set up for, right? They're set up for you to take out money out of your check and fund your own retirement. Now, this isn't instead of Social Security, right? Social Security is like a safety net, but if you can fund your own retirement, something like 2008, the housing bubble doesn't collapse or whatever, that's on top of, right? Plus any savings you might have, right? That's a three-legged stool, I think is what they call it. But it's not meant for people to use it to hide away corporate cash, right? You're not supposed to be able to be a CEO making billions of dollars and be able to stuff it full and not pay taxes on it. But at the time, there was a loophole. So he stuffed Peter Thiel this was news at the time when it came to light. He was able to stash away $5 billion of income he earned into an IRA, an individual retirement account. And when he is eligible, if he doesn't remove it before then, when he's eligible, he's going to get all that money back tax-free in a few years.
In a Roth IRA account. The Roth IRA account was created for low and middle class Americans to try and stow away money for retirement. But of course, these freak billionaires found every way to take advantage of it. In Thiel's case, he forced the PayPal board to give him money to buy stocks in the company pre-IPO, which is before they go public, and then also took money from his own Roth account to buy over 500,000 stocks, which was illegal if you controlled the company. But at the time, he didn't. He found the loophole. Thiel was a trendsetter at this.
So he wasn't technically in control of the company. He was forcing the board to make decisions in his favor without actually being in control of the company, against the company's interests, to the detriment of the company. He was making them do these decisions.
Him and many other rich people took advantage of this system. In the coming years, Congress loosened the laws on this, so Thiel repeated this multiple times with multiple different companies. Any gains made in Roth IRA accounts are not taxed, so he will have access to that account with $5 billion when he turns 59. Peter Thiel is 57. Back to the main
So in 2 years, he'll get access to all that money he stuffed away tax-free.
storyline. Eventually, PayPal was bought out by eBay for $1.2 billion. Elon made a lot of money selling PayPal, and he decided to start funding SpaceX. SpaceX was burning through cash and eventually got to the point where Elon...
SpaceX was on the verge of failure, right? They couldn't afford... They had to do so many launches to be viable. We went through watching this at one time where we were watching like this company's doing their third launch, and we think analysts will call them viable, which could lead to like government contracts or even private sector contracts. They couldn't get through their fourth launch. They didn't have the funds, even though the rocket was there, even though it was basically ready to go. They didn't have the funds to do their next launch. Enter Peter Thiel.
Elon couldn't fund it anymore. He didn't have the money to do the fourth launch. His company should have been cooked. But here comes the same man he said he wanted to assassinate to the rescue. Thiel and friends gave Elon Musk $20 million and allowed him to successfully launch his fourth rocket.
2, 1, 0. First stage 1.
You'll notice that they went from creating companies that can be used by people that the economy supports, that regular people support, that use cases support. And a lot of them went over to the government sector, have went to the government sector and guaranteed contracts and shit like that. Even Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, both.
After this successful launch, the government gave him a $1.6 billion contract, and Thiel's investment company now owns 10% of SpaceX. Thiel's connections don't stop there. He was also an early investor in YouTube, LinkedIn, and he was the first outside investor of Facebook in 2004. If you think about social media in terms of the algorithm, there's only one he doesn't have his hands in, and that's TikTok. But I want to say a very strong doesn't have his hands on it yet. I could go on.
Which is also weird that Trump wants to force TikTok to, you know what I'm saying? Trump wants to force TikTok to sell to American backers. And it just so happens that the people that are advising him have money invested in all social media except for TikTok.
On and on about Thiel's history, but it's time to talk about how we see Thiel today. Because everything in what we are seeing today in conservative media is Peter Thiel, even Hulk Hogan. Peter Thiel secretly funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against a media platform called Gawker. They released a sex tape of Hulk Hogan a while back.
This was a big deal when it happened. But not a lot of people knew that Peter Thiel, the funding came from him to finance this.
and he ended up winning $160 million from that lawsuit and bankrupted that entire company. This is more ridiculous than anything else. We see Hulk Hogan on stage with Trump. There is no way that these things don't have correlation. Let's go over a list of companies that Peter Thiel has ownership in right now. He owns LinkedIn, SpaceX, Stripe, YouTube, Meta, Oculus, Lyft, Rumble, Airbnb, and the list goes on and on. Thiel is on the forefront of technology for the military and government contracts. One of the companies being Palantir Technologies.
Palantir is scary as fuck. You guys remember Cambridge Analytica and how a lot of people think they swayed the 2016 election? Palantir is like Cambridge Analytica on steroids, right? They do data analytics and facial recognition software within governments. Like scary shit. Like they're talking about like future crime shit. Like they can predict that you're going to commit a crime. And they claim they're so accurate that you could make decisions based on future crimes.
Palantir's first investor was the CIA. The CIA has a capital investment firm called In-Q-Tel, and Palantir as a whole racked up over $1.2 billion of investments from the US government alone. Now, I don't know if you remember, but Thiel started PayPal to overthrow the government. Now his biggest investors in his company is the US.
Thank you for the resubscription.
For 27 months. Yes. This is scary shit.
Very.
Government. This is very much like Elon Musk, two complete idiots that benefit from the government while trying to take down the government. It quite literally makes my brain hurt. Palantir is very active with military equipment.
So he was into taking down the U.S. government, and now some of his biggest investors are like the CIA and shit.
And using AI to commit attacks based on what the AI believes to be threats currently being used on the Palestinians.
So Palantir is being used, data sets and AI, to predict where strikes should be done in Palestine.
This use of AI did not start last year. This has been going on since 2021 when Israel committed atrocities in Palestine. And back in 2021, Israel said that the use of this technology could be considered the first AI war. AI needs an insane amount of information and data to fuel itself, and there's no need to guess how Israel has gotten the data on Palestinians. Whistleblowers have come out saying that the NSA had provided Israel with raw data on phone records and emails from Palestinian Americans that would be in contact with their relatives in occupied territories. The NSA stated they are providing unfiltered texts and scripts of conversations that U.S. citizens are having with their relatives directly to Israel, and this abuse of power is how
The NSA just come out and said it. That people that are in occupied, that are in Palestine, are having phone conversations with their relatives here in America, American citizens. And the NSA is providing all that data to Israel.
how they were able to target Palestinians. The company is now saying it's currently developing an even more powerful AI targeting system. According to Palantir, Titan is a next-generation intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ground station enabled by artificial intelligence. It has machine learning to process data received from space, high-altitude, aerial, and terrestrial layers. Knowing that SpaceX owns Starlink, which is Elon's satellite company, and a quick reminder, Thiel also owns a part of that, it would make sense how he has the capability to do all these things, and most likely
I don't know. Like, I was always scared. Satellites seems like something that need to be heavily regulated by governments. The fact that a private company can put a satellite up and just say, oh, it just does this, or thousands of satellites up, oh, it just does this, right? Think about all the data that Elon Musk could just intercept with Starlink. And who is overseeing that this data is secure?
Under Trump, with Elon's power, he's going to have zero restrictions on whatever he wants to do. Thiel is not just at the forefront of war overseas, but the leader in facial recognition in America. He was one of the early investors in Clearview AI.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like there's like this watchdog group that checks. I don't know. It's scary, I think.
In 2017, the tech world was worried that this technology would be used for weaponization of people on American soil. And
What?
Early investors in Clearview, whatever he wants to do. Teal is not just at the forefront of war overseas, but the leader in facial recognition in America. He was one of the early investors in Clearview AI in 2017. The tech world was worried that this technology would be used for weaponization of people on American soil. And
so potentially, the U.S. government with data companies and whoever these private companies are could build like, okay, your phone, which you always have with you, plus facial recognition, plus anything else you carry around with you that has a connection to the internet, security cameras, all these things, could build a profile on you and know what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do. That's when we get into like the weird future crime shit, right? Is it a crime if you stop someone and your algorithm tells you that they were on their way to commit a crime, but they haven't actually committed that crime yet?
sadly, they were correct. Teal has used AI facial recognition under Trump's first presidency to assist ICE to find immigrants. They used information.
They're already using AI and facial recognition to help us locate immigrants
From Palantir to find and target unaccompanied migrant children to abduct them from their families. And this is exactly how we saw kids ending up in cages. The mass deportation that Trump has talked about will be on the back of Teal's technology. And this time, there will be no one in power to stop him.
I think that's probably a big part of the reason. Plus, we don't have people in office that understand it. Dude, if you took anything away, I don't give a fuck if you like TikTok or China or not, right? I'm on TikTok, but if you don't like it, don't like it. But the biggest takeaway from that hearing was nobody understands the internet, what we're doing on it, apps, data. We literally had the people making the most important decisions in the world saying, so you're telling me if TikTok is on my router, that China is on my router? I watched a guy ask 7 times. 7 times. If TikTok was scanning your pupils to see what response certain content had on your psyche. While another man explained the only time we track pupils is when you put a filter over your face. Now, he could have been lying. He could have been lying his ass off. But there was not a way in the world to explain to that man what a filter was and why it needed to track where your eyeballs were. You couldn't have used a drawing or a map or a PowerPoint or crayons or Sharpies or poster board. There was not a way in the world to explain to that man that was asking the question what a motherfucking filter was. It didn't matter what you did. He was not going to understand. He just couldn't. He couldn't comprehend what a filter on an app was. And they're making decisions about your data, how it gets used, what apps we can use, what apps we can't use. Just wild.
And the reason why is because the people in power he put there. He has been involved in politics since 2007, although not successful early on, funding candidates like Ron Paul for president who failed, and then tried funding Meg Whitman for governor.
It was like at first he wanted these more libertarian style. Maybe his politics changed, or maybe he saw a way in with Donald Trump. I don't know.
California, who also failed. He failed again in 2012, setting up a YouTube channel for Mitt Romney when he was running for president. And that time, he spent $3.3 million in ads. Finally, Teal found success in...
This is why Donald Trump ran on this, like, make America great, eliminate immigration, basically, like the bare bones of it. This is why when H-1B visas came up as an issue, it was shut the fuck up. My supporters are stupid. You couldn't be an engineer. We're not training you to be an engineer. We will import engineers. Why? Because the tech bros are behind him. You can't tell me that if we had a system in place to produce American engineers in American schools and have the tech bros pay a portion of that, right? Maybe it's reimbursement if you work for a company for 5 years or whatever, that wouldn't be a better system for America. It would be a worse system for the tech bros, right? Because they couldn't treat their employees like slaves, pay them a portion of a livable wage, threaten to have them deported if they didn't work for you anymore. But just like when there was a nursing shortage, companies stepped up and you could go to nursing school and you might not like it, but then you could go work for a company for 3-5 years or whatever, and they would reimburse the cost it took. We could do the exact same thing with engineers and coders and fucking AI, whatever, scientists. We could do the exact same thing. It would make our economy stronger. It would make our workforce stronger. It would have implications on defense, right? Because we're making our homegrown engineers here. But it would cost them some money. When they do H-1B visas, I know that's like the upper tier of immigration, but they treat those people like shits. They expect them to come here and work their fucking asses off. And if they want a better wage or better conditions to work in or to work a better job, they're threatened with deportation. That company can just write a shitty review and get you fucking deported. So what are you going to do? Are you going to keep your fucking mouth shut and work all this extra work for shitty wages in a shitty environment and they're just working you like a slave? Or are you going to risk saying something back and be deported? Donald Trump does it with front desk staff at his fucking Trump hotels. And again, Trump ran on America first. We're gonna bring back. We're gonna do everything here. We don't need those other people. And then as soon as H-1B topics came up, people were like, "Shut up! America's fucking stupid. You could never do these jobs. We got to import these people."
2016 during Trump's campaign. Teal was a prominent figure and speaker tokenizing himself of being a proud gay man in the Republican Party. I'm sure the conservative men that were crashing the Grindr apps were also feeling very inspired to speak their truths. This is where the success really begins. His power within politics would skyrocket. He has now funded Ted Budd, Senator of Washington, D.C., Ted Cruz, Senator of Texas, Blake Masters, Senator of Arizona, Eric Schmidt, Senator of Missouri. He has funded these House of Representative numbers: Tom Cole, Mike Gallagher, Harriet Hageman, Brian Harrison, Joe Kent, Kevin McCarthy.
Now, he's donated to these people, and they've won, right? I don't know the amounts. I don't know if he's their top donor or their lowest donor. I have no idea. But he has paid these people money, and they've won. And the amounts of money that he throws around, it wouldn't be crazy to think, hey, this guy probably wants something in return.
McCarthy, Chris Stewart, Michael Waltz, Patrick Witt. One of the most important ones is Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance without Peter Thiel is...
J.D. Vance was made by Peter Thiel.
Is just some big-head, chubby-faced, misogynistic nerd living in Ohio, but with Thiel's help, he rose to riches. J.D. Vance, prior to getting involved in politics, decided to open a venture capitalist firm. Can you guess who gave the seed money to start it? It was none
That's weird.
other than our boy, Peter Thiel. After that, Vance decided to run for Senate in Ohio. Thiel gave his super PAC $15 million.
So Peter Thiel has this venture capitalist thing where they invest in companies. So when you have multiple billions of dollars, right, you can invest in companies. When we talk about stocks, you have like the blue chips, right? You put money into the blue chip stocks, and these stocks typically produce income over a long period, right? This is where you want, especially if you're close to retirement, you want most of your 401k. These are stocks that are just going to gradually go up. Most people don't invest in super volatile companies because they can't afford to lose it all overnight. But when you're a multi-billionaire, you can throw a few $1 million into this company that might tank, right? You might lose every fucking dime of it overnight, Or you might get a 10,000% return off of it if it hits. So to pretend like they're some type of philanthropist, they're not, right? They go in and they weigh there might be a 70-30, right? There's 70% chance this company falls flat on their face and you lose $2 million. But there's a 30% chance that you 100x your investment. And they can afford to do that. Most people can't. Most people are like, I gotta barely stuff some money here, and if it dips too much, I'm fucked. Like I won't be able to retire. I have to work till I'm 90.
The most ever in a senator race. Teal is directly connected to Vance. Decided to run for Senate in Ohio. Teal gave his super PAC $15 million, the most ever in a senator race.
Peter Thiel donated to JD Vance the most ever from a single donor for a senator race. Like, he wanted this guy to succeed, clearly. And what do you think JD Vance owes him for that? Something. Yes. The biggest difference, when we talk about outcomes versus where people start, right? Most people are living a life where an inconvenient, like $5,000, let's just say tomorrow, something happens and it's going to stop your ability to go to school, to go to work, to make a living, to feed your family, and it costs $5,000. If you're on the lower class or the working class, you're fucked, right? More than likely, you're fucked. If it's a medical emergency or a car repair, or you're probably fucked. And it's going to take you years, whether you can borrow that money or take out a loan or get a title loan or an advance on your pay, if you can overcome this $5,000 hurdle or $10,000 hurdle. It's going to take you years to just get back above water if you ever do. But when you start with even a few $100,000 in the bank and $10,000 something pops up, you just pay it and go on about your life. There are people that would literally die, lose their job, lose everything, not be able to feed their family if they bust their rim on the way to work. They're fucked. People with money don't have these issues, right? So they've got a lot of chances to fuck up before their life is just fucked and they're stuck at a dead-end job. You have a lot of leeway to fuck up and fuck up and fuck up and fuck up until you figure it out. While most people are on a very short chain, that a couple bad days in a row and they're just fucked for life. That's it. They're always going to be in fucking debt. They're never going to get above water. And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. But the programs we use to kind of at least try to put a little leveling in the playing field are all being destroyed as woke, DEI, leftists, whatever.
Is directly connected to JD Vance receiving the nominee to become vice president. And this is where it gets a little weird. In 2024, Teal says he is taking a step back from politics and won't be donating to Trump's campaign because all of a sudden he thinks money won't help win this election. And this is just what I believe.
Suddenly he thinks money won't help win the election in 2024? That's wild.
He decided to not invest his money publicly because he is investing his money in the background, funding right-wing influencers, podcasts, and journalists, and even building an entire university. Co-founder of Palantir, Joe Lonsdale, created Texas University as a non-woke alternative college.
The anti-woke. You don't want your kids going to a woke university. This is an amazing grift right now. You know how many wealthy, old, white Republicans that thinks college is destroying their kids would pay ungodly amount of money to send their kid to a university that won't end up with a woke mind virus, right? It's a pretty good grift.
and has raised some $200 million to teach forbidden courses by people like Mark Andreessen. Thiel also gives scholarships and is an active donor to this college. Thiel also has an insane amount of connections to the people that Trump is bringing in to run different parts of the government. For example, Trump has chosen Jim O'Neill to work alongside Robert F. Kennedy for the Department of Human and Health Services. Jim O'Neill used to work for Peter Thiel. Trey Stevens, who is supposed to receive one of the highest ranking positions at the Pentagon. Defense Secretary, managing the defense budget and executing the priorities of the Secretary of Defense. Basically means unlimited funding for Palantir. Blake Masters, who has also worked for Thiel, is under consideration to head up the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. When Blake Masters found out
Some of these didn't come true.
was up for this position, he said that while he didn't have a clear visibility into the circumstances of this endorsement, he suspected members of the Trump campaign and friends helped
Again, it probably took him months to write this video, and he released it a month ago, so.
make the case that the former president should call on him. Really, friends? This guy's claiming he didn't even know Peter Thiel was going to call him up. Peter Thiel has also directly impacted how we see money entering politics today. Many entrepreneurs who had not been politically active said the opportunity was too good to pass up. The chance to influence the government is a huge opportunity, said Jack Abram, who leads Thiel's foundation. Honestly, this rabbit hole I have been on, connecting all these dots, seeing who has their hands in what company and what part of government they are going to be influenced, is truly mind-boggling and hard to even understand how deep all of this goes.
I made this video prior to Donald Trump's inauguration, and this news article solidifies what I've been saying. A Trump party hosted by Peter Thiel with all of Silicon Valley. The party symbolized the
At Peter Thiel's house was the celebration party.
Trump's inauguration, and this news article solidifies what I've been saying. A Trump party hosted by Peter Thiel with all of Silicon Valley. The party symbolized the euphoria of the tech industry on the cusp of Trump's presidency. The guest list included Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Miriam Adelson, and the Vice President-elect J.D. Vance.
I think it's like a weird addiction or something, right? Dude, if I was a billionaire, I'd probably do a lot of charity work, but even if I didn't do that, it would just sit there and make interest while I fucked off. I'd put the Diddy parties to shame with all consenting adults. But I think it's some type of addiction. Like they've got to have more. They've got to have more power. They've got to have more money. They've got to have more influence. They've got to have more. Nobody's coming to take their fucking money. Right? It's not like it's a life and death. They've got to defend it.
I don't think it's a coincidence that these things are being held at Peter Thiel's house, and this is just more evidence that I believe that Peter Thiel is the one who is running our government.
That was a very good video. Again, the guy's name is River Wand. Here is the link if you want to check him out on YouTube. He seems like he does investigative videos and does a pretty decent job. River Wand, one word, on YouTube. This is from a month ago, the rise of Peter Thiel and his step into the political life. It was a pretty good video. I found it last night and thought, there you go. Yeah, if the rich get a hell of a lot more. Yeah, oh, hold on. There's a video. Our buddy Sully did a video. I don't want to get rid of this video. You guys remember the cup guy?
Welcome back to Gary's Economics.
Not the cup song, the trend, but the guy who does the billions of dollars in cups. I think his name is Sully Teaches, Sully something. Sully Dog, that's what it was. Not only do they get out of paying their taxes, when we look at it like effective tax rates, but Elon Musk literally is a welfare queen. That's what he does. He's a welfare queen. Check this out. This is the video is called Deep State Found, and it talks about their tax rates. Now, he doesn't, I don't think he explained this very well, but let's pull it up and I'll pause it.
These two pyramids right here symbolize what's gone on.
Maybe I'll pause it.
Years with the tax.
All right. So these stacks of cups, see the yellow and black stacks? The yellow and black together is the tax rate. The yellow is what they actually end up paying, which is the effective tax rate on average. So you can tell me all day long that their tax rate is 60%. But if they have enough deductions that their effective tax rate is 3%, it doesn't matter what the standard tax rate is. The effective tax rate is what you're actually paying taxes on, because you have the deduction for this, or you reinvested that, or you classified this as loss, or you bought a fucking G-Wagon and it's a work truck, whatever. So the yellow and black together is what they should be paying. The yellow is what they actually pay due to tax breaks and loopholes or whatever. So we'll start this over and let him talk about it.
These two pyramids right here symbolize what's gone on over the last 60 years with the tax bracket of the richest 400 Americans. Used to be 77%. Today, it's now down to 37%. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. Richest people in America got a 52% tax decrease over the last 60 years, but it's worse than that. I got 45 yellow cups in there, which symbolizes 45%, which is the effective tax rate of those folks after deductions. Now, fast forward, the richest 400 Americans are paying at a rate of less than 9%.
The richest 400 Americans went from an effective tax rate, a tax rate of like 70 something, down to 45. Now, even though their tax rate is like 37, they're effectively, after all their tax breaks, loopholes, hiding money, whatever, they are paying a tax rate of 9%. That's insane. %. These are the wealthiest income earners. Top 400 income earners in the United States are paying a tax rate of 9%.
After deductions. Now, fast forward, the richest 400 Americans are paying at a rate of less than 9%. I know you're doing your taxes. You paying more than 9%? Am I onto something? Do you see how the yellow has gotten significantly smaller? Well, let's look at the consequences. 65 cups, 100 billion per cup, $6.5 trillion, which happens to be the budget last year for all of us. The federal budget, the military, the roads, everything. The 56 yellow cups represents the 5.6 trillion that has been accumulated by the 400 richest people in America.
These green cups are everything we spend compared to how much money has been accumulated by the 400 richest people in America. The yellow cups.
Which happens to be the budget last year for all of us. The federal budget, you paying more than 9%? Am I onto something? Do you see how the yellow has gotten significantly smaller? Well, let's look at the consequences. 65 cups, 100 billion per cup, $6.5 trillion, which happens to be the budget last year for all of us. The federal budget, the military, the roads, everything. The 56 yellow cups represents the 5.6 trillion that has been accumulated by the 400 richest people in America. If you still...
They basically accumulated in wealth our entire budget for the year, almost.
Think that trickle-down economics works, I'm asking you to please take yourself outside and kick your own ass, because it's ridiculous. $5.6 trillion. Let's name these people. Let's call them what it is. These are the American oligarchs. They control everything. They are both Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, all they want.
This is basically how it's more open and more well-known, but this is how Russia is ran, right? Putin is the head of Russia. But the wealthiest people in his country, basically, I wouldn't say they tell him every action to take, but he knows that he's on a leash with those people. There are some things he can do, some things he can't do. We saw this when some of these oligarchs' children were going to be drafted. Then suddenly the draft was off and they were emptying prisons, right? It's just open favors for the wealthy, taking care of the wealthy, keeping the wealthy, and placate everybody else. This is how Putin conquered Russia's oligarchy. In the summer of 2000, 21 of the richest men in Russia exited their bulletproof limousines and entered the Kremlin for a historic meeting. In the previous decade, these men had risen seemingly out of nowhere, amassing spectacular fortunes as the country around them descended into chaos. Through shady deals, outright corruption, and even murder, these oligarchs, as Russians had come to derisively call them, had seized control of much of Russia's economy and increasingly its fledgling democracy. But now their nation's newly elected president, Vladimir Putin, wanted to tell them face to face who was really in charge. I want to draw your attention to the fact that you built this state yourself to a great degree through the political or semi-political structures under your control, Putin reportedly said in a closed-door meeting. So there is no point in blaming the reflection in the mirror. So let us get down to the point and be open and do what is necessary to make our relationship in this field civilized and transparent. Putin offered the oligarchs a deal. Let him have the authority, stay out of each other's ways, and you can keep your mansions, your super yachts, your private jets, and multi-billion-dollar corporations. In the coming years, the oligarchs who reneged on this deal and undermined Putin would be thrown into Siberian prison or be forced into exile or die in suspicious circumstances. Like they keep each other in check, but it's pretty open that this is the way it's run. And it seems like this is what our country's going to. Have enough money, give enough money, campaign with enough money, get the ear of the people you need in charge so you can make more money. It's crazy.
One is power and money. You and I have to get on the same page to stop these guys from doing it. This is where the deep state.
And this is where all of the white versus every other person, the great replacement theory, the Jews, the criminal illegals, the be mad at the welfare queens, right? Be mad at this, less than 0.001% of the population that are scamming food stamps. While the top 400 people could feed us all, the entire population of the United States for years to come.
State lives. Did you actually ever think about what the deep state looks like? Because if you thought it through, it's likely someone with a lot of money that may even own satellites. If you take it one step further, it's likely someone with a lot of money that may own cable news networks that can pay morons tens of millions of dollars a year to try to convince me that this is socialism. They can do that till they're blue in the face. They're stealing money from the rest of us. What's the prize, you may ask? Well, the oligarchs would like another helping of taxes. $11.2 trillion tax cut. $11.2 trillion, are you kidding me? They're hiding it with the middle class. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. While taking...
Even if the MAGAs get everything they want, right? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. It's not worth the $9 trillion that is being handed out the top 1%. It's just not worth it.
$9.2 trillion for themselves? You got to ask yourself, are you on the right team? If you're on the right team and you're making America great.
I hope that America writes its course and we're able to study the amount of subversion, manipulation. This is going to be hopefully recorded in the history books as a time when social media was new and kind of the Wild West, and people used it very nefariously to manipulate the population. And hopefully it's fixed in the future. And somebody can sit down and say, hey, this would have never happened had we hadn't been paying billions here and millions there and using this data improperly and doing this and AI and manipulating these people.
Great again. Then I would just like a simple explanation as to why you insist on giving money to the oligarchs. I know my argument is solid. I've been screaming for years about it, but people just get...
They will never, ever, 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 ever. You can bring up, hey, we should all have basically free health care. We're the greatest country in the world. We should have basically free health care that's subsidized by our fucking taxes. They will scream and kick and yell and shout and communist and move to Russia if that's what you want and blah, 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 blah. But won't mention the $9 trillion in tax breaks we're giving to the wealthy. I can't think of anybody who needs a tax break less than the top 10% of earners. There's enough wealth and money and production and value in the United States that you could have your wildest fucking dreams of social safety nets and still never hit the bottom. But instead, we've got to live like fucking beggars and fight each other while the wealthy make off like bandits and buy their 15th super yacht that happens to have a fucking rocket launch pad on the deck. Oh, I hope so. You didn't come hook me up, bro.
Worn down and they don't care. They're going to wear you down because tax cuts sound great. But you got to understand, they're for them. They're not for you.
Yes. My parents spent their whole life falling for the misinformation that is the Southern strategy and voting against their best interest. My parents, especially towards the end, or fucking raising us, we were dirt poor, dude. We were so fucking poor. My dad always found a way to make ends meet. The old pull yourself up by your bootstraps, even fucking technically scamming people. I've told you guys about the Krispy Kreme fundraisers and shit he used to make up to pay our light bill. When in reality, they should have benefited from a social safety net program. They were both worked until they became disabled, and I was having to supplement their groceries because they didn't qualify for food stamps. That's insane. And they would still vote Republican every time they could.
You probably won't even get this. How are they doing it? Weapons of mass distraction. Well, what about this system? They come out on an hourly basis. We can't even stop it. Every day it's something. Doge. If Doge was legitimate, who the hell came up with the idea and said, you know what? Let's go after the fraud in the Department of Education. I mean, seriously, the fraud is in the military-industrial complex. We all know it. They're not going there because they have the contracts. You think Musk is going to bite off his own hand? He's not a teacher. He owns satellites. We have got to get on the same page. We have to do everything in our power to stop these tax cuts.
By the way, Doge ended up, I think over the weekend, or right before the weekend, had to delete over 100 and some fucking contracts from their wall of receipts because they couldn't figure out how to actually cancel those contracts.
We cannot allow it to happen. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, you need to call your congressperson every day. You need to show up at these town halls. You need to say, hell no, absolutely no way. You can't sit on the sidelines anymore. People died for this country, and we can't turn it over to 400 people. It's not going to happen. They don't make us cry. We'll fight to the very end. We have got to get on the same page. These people are not cutting up military contracts for crying out loud. They're cutting up the world. You think it's coincidence? Greenland, Panama, Canada, those are the borders of North America.
There's damn sure enough wealth in this country that we ought to have the greatest safety nets, right? Breaking your leg shouldn't destroy your life. If you want to, you worked hard for the last 10 years and you want to do something better and go to school, you ought to be able to fucking afford to go to school, right? Learn something different. Go to a better job. Build yourself up. I'm not asking for fucking handouts. It shouldn't be fucking handouts. There should be support to where we live like we sell the American dream to everybody else, and I'm over here living like I'm in fucking poverty, abject poverty.
You think it's coincidence that they're into cryptocurrency? They get all this money. They switch it to...
I saw Tim Pool posted today on Twitter. They're like, I hate when people fucking take shots at the lowest of the low, dude. Tim Pool over here posting that EBT SNAP and any other welfare recipients should be banned from buying soda. I think that's Milo's cat, but yeah, he is offering a reward for it. So I put, people who have been paid for their talking points by the Russian government should no longer have the freedom to post on social media and be taken seriously. Like, they're doing bad enough, dude. The fact that they have to subsidize their family to eat. Who gives a fuck if they buy all soda? You think that's the problem? You think that's the problem with people on fucking food stamps? Soda?
Crypto, then what? You think it's coincidence? Greenland, Panama, Canada, those are the borders of North America. You think it's coincidence that they're into cryptocurrency? They get all this money. They switch it to crypto, then what? Then what do we do? Let's beat them at the tax cut. They have to vote on it this year. The rest of the social issues, we got to wait till the ballot box. My argument's solid. Cups and cans talking, bullshit walks. Prove me wrong. Until then, have a great weekend. And remember, I'm always rooting for you.
Sully's Classroom on Facebook.
Diversity.
We're going to watch the rest of his videos while we're here. This is a good example of DEI. I think that DEI can go overboard, right? I think that to demand that a company has like, oh, well, this spot should only be filled by a black, trans, indigenous, blah, blah, whatever, right? It can go overboard. But that's not what it is. That's not what it is. He does a good example of showing how it works here.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI, fair or not fair? Let's see what the math says. Let's say you're a college and you've taken in 5,000 applications and you only have one position available. You would narrow those applications down to 100 equally qualified applicants.
Equally qualified. Equally qualified. They're all qualified for the job.
All have perfect SAT scores. They're all number one in their class, number one on the debate team. Let's say you're in the military and you got 1,500 people up for one promotion. You cannot interview 1,500 people, so you look at their files and you narrow it down to the top 100 candidates that are all equal. They all have excellent shooting skills. They all have shown great leadership skills. Their aptitude scores are virtually the same. We're down to 100 people. I can only interview 10 for one position. If I use...
So all 1,500 are qualified. I'm going to narrow it down to 100 people, the top 100, based on merit.
DEI, I know I have 60 people from Greenville. I have 20 people from Yellowville. I got 10 people from Redville, and I got 10 people from Blueville. So I'm being...
60, 20, 10, 10. Out of 100. 60, 20, 10, 10.
Fair in interviewing for this position. I should have 6 green, 2 yellow, 1 red, and 1 blue. I interview those
for the final interview, right? So we take 6 from this pile, 2 from this pile, 1 from this one, and then 1 from this one. Then we interview and hire the best candidate. The problem is, if you don't use some type of system, you're going to end up with almost all green and maybe a yellow candidate to interview. The red and the blue never get an interview.
10 people and let the best person win. But our government now tells us that that's a bad thing and that we don't want to know any of this and we just want to leave it to fate. So I have the corresponding blocks in here and we'll see how that happens. I'm just going to randomly select the 10 people to interview without looking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As you can see, I have 8.
You should have seen how many MAGA retards were upset when they realized that it was for fucking veterans too.
Green and 2 yellow. DEI.
So when he does a randomization, he ends up with 8 applicants that are from green and 2 that are from yellow because it's an odds thing.
Is absolutely the most justified way of doing this, because if I do not use DEI, what happens? The majority gets the unfair advantage. The only people that do not want DEI are the majority. And there's only 2 ways to think about that. Either number 1, they're afraid of the minority, or number 2, they like the rules slanted to them. So going forward, DEI, some of the best things about America. In fact, our entire representative democracy is based upon it. The Electoral College.
The Electoral College is DEI if there's ever been DEI.
Is DEI. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you have a great night. And remember, I'm always rooting for you. Hey everybody, welcome to the classroom. I'm Sully. This is the place where we use visual aids to describe what's going on in the world.
This actually might be a pin video.
Recap. This is $50 billion. This is the amount of money that Doge claims that they have saved the American public. This is $11.2 trillion, which is the amount of money that is not going to make...
Dude, we had this huge falling out in my county because I guess a volunteer organization built a ramp for a disabled veteran to get into his house. And the guy who does like permits and inspections or whatever, like had beef with them and claimed they didn't pull the right permit. So they went and taped off the ramp so he couldn't use it. And then they come back and ordered them to demo the ramp. Like it was a whole big fucking thing a few years back.
Make it into the U.S. Treasury because of the tax cuts. $50 billion, $11.2 trillion. And yes, I understand that it's only 1 month or 2 months, but hopefully you can see that I have a revenue problem. I cannot cut my way out of this mess. The blue cup's right here, $2.1 trillion, which is the amount of money that would cause a deficit should we get no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no taxes on overtime. The trilogy. Who wouldn't want that? If this is all that we were talking about in the tax, it would have passed day 1 unanimously. Everybody wants that. How do we make that happen? We don't give money to the rich. It's certainly, you can see that the richest people in the world are in fact hiding behind the blue collar workers, and they got Doge doing the dirty work. They are trying to get away with $9.1 trillion over the next 10 years. The federal budget, guys, is only $7 trillion. The richest of the rich are going to extract more than the amount of money that we need in a year, and they're using Doge to do it. And they're
I like Sully. He's a good guy.
So you don't see it. You and I are never going to agree on what's wasteful spending. This is designed to distract us. What you think is wasteful, I think is useful. What you think is fraud, I may not agree with. As long as we're arguing, that's all that matters, because they get their $9.1 trillion. They have consequences when you do these things. This is the reality of someone in your family having a $45,000 a month drug problem, and you want them to stop drinking 1 cup of coffee a month. I'm over here, hey, we got to get you to rehab. And you're like, nope, don't drink coffee. Listen, I found this excellent facility to help you. As long as you don't drink coffee, we'll be okay. That's Doge compared to the tax cuts. And it has consequences. This is 10,000 people. This right here symbolizes 220,000 hardworking Americans that lost their job because of the Doge cuts.
The concrete house build. I don't know. Remind me. What are we talking about?
This right here are the veterans. 30% of the federal workforce were veterans. They didn't even look. You don't think we had a job for the guy that has shrapnel in him from Desert Storm? We don't have a job for Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran that lost a limb? We don't have a job for some of the finest men and women in this country that went to the academies? This is not who we are. We have to be honest. This money right here is the money that's being offered to all of us as a dividend. We don't take salaries from one person and give it to others.
Take the fucking salaries of the veterans they fired as a dividend.
That's not what...
All right, guys. I'm going to throw up an image, and you tell me what you genuinely think of it. Okay? Are we ready, chat? Lock in. What do we think about this image? Oh, yeah. I know the 3D printed houses, yeah. I honestly don't think it's that bad. Like it's I don't like Trump, but I think it's Trump, definitely. An oil painting of Trump. Trump hates this image. In fact, he thinks that this image was manipulated in such a way to make him look bad. It says, nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves. First of all, I want you to notice the shift here. First, it's he doesn't like it. He hates it. It's bad. Then he's like, other people don't like it. I'm just bringing this up because they said it. I don't care kind of deal. Ready? Nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves. But the one in Colorado, in the state capitol, put up by the governor, along with all the other presidents, was purposefully distorted to a level that even I, perhaps, have never seen before. The same artist also did President Obama, and he looks wonderful. But the one on me is truly the worst. She must have lost her talent as she got older. In any event, I would much prefer not having a picture than having this one. But many people from Colorado have called and written to complain. In fact, they are actually angry about it. I'm speaking on their behalf to the radical left governor, Jared Polis, who is extremely weak on crime, in particular with respect to Tren de Aragua, which practically took over Aurora. Don't worry, we saved it. To take it down, Jared should be ashamed of himself. I think he wanted a less accurate and more flattering picture. Like, hey, can you make my cheeks less chubby? Can you make me look less fat? Why am I leaning at a 20-degree angle? But I honestly don't think it's that bad. He has a tiny mouth, but he has a tiny mouth in real life. They used a natural skin tone that isn't fucking orange. I think it looks kind of presidential. He is very upset about it. I definitely don't think the artist made it shitty on purpose, right? Like purposefully distort it to make me look bad. There's no fucking way. He's just a fat guy. They say the artist adds 10 pounds. Do the roar. Do the roar. Dude, I've got my kids. I want to tell you about something. I got my kids, Mark Rober, who's apparently in some controversy right now, has this thing called Crunch Labs. And it's basically like these little kid projects that you do that have to do with like electrical engineering and coding and shit like that. The upgraded version of that is called the Hack Pack. And me and the kids did one today that was laser tag, and it is so fucking cool. It comes with these goggles that you put on, and they've got these two like linear filters in them. So like when they're lined up, you can see through the goggles perfectly. But when you get shot, I thought so too. Like he doesn't look as fat as he does in real life in the painting, but whatever. When you get shot, the two filters go 180 degrees out of sync, and you just see black for 3 seconds. And then it turns it back on, and then you can play laser tag again. The thing is so fucking cool, the way it works. I was hoping somebody did a video on it. Me and the kids just put this together today, and it's fucking sweet, dude. That's the IR turret. That's not the one I'm looking for. This is a laser tag. I wonder if this video's... I don't even know if I can play this audio. So it's 2 laser tag guns. It's got like a little... It's basically runs off a little Arduino. And it comes pre-programmed to where it's really just almost like advanced Legos, but you can go in and tweak stuff, like how many times it takes to get shot, how long it times you out, how fast stuff works, how fast you can fire. It's pretty cool. And like I said, when one person gets shot, it basically blacks out your vision for 3 seconds, so you know you got hit. And then when it opens back up, it's got these little gears that turn a filter.
I shot you.
See how she looks blacked out right there? So it's got this antenna, this IR antenna. That's your target, the little orange tip. And she's blacked out right now. But they're geared. So when the little motor, after 3 seconds, it goes and turns the lenses to where you can see back out of them.
Yeah.
All right, shoot me. Oh, no.
All right, see how it was spinning on his face? Hold on, I'll show you. Like, literally, it's ringed gears. So it's cool the way they designed it. So watch when the dad gets shot.
I shot you, and yours turned dark?
Yeah.
All right, shoot me. Oh, no.
See how it spun? So it blacks you out.
Anymore.
Because I was curious, how are they going to tell? Is there going to be like a beep or something, like a sound or like a vibration? How do I know when I get shot? It literally like turns the filters to where you can't see anything. And then after 3 seconds, it and opens back up and you can see again. Do you customize it in Arduino code? So it comes with its own IDE to where you can go in. You can use just Arduino IDE, right? But they actually have their special one that has all the notes in it. So you can go in. I can log in and show you. You can go in and customize the code yourself. It comes pre-programmed with their own code they've written. They have a web-based one, which isn't bad. A browser-based, I guess I should say. And it sends you one of these projects every 2 months. You get a project. We've done the laser turret. We've done this one. We did the domino stacker thing. I forgot how I log into my thing. Oh, here it is. IR turret, domino robot. We just got the laser tag. 1. Okay, here we go. So this is like their back end or whatever. You can buy replacement parts. It says the coding console. So they have their own IDE over here. And it's got all the notes in it already in here. So it defines the pins. It defines everything. Adafruit, NeoPixel, strip, LED count, LED pin. How aggressively to undarken goggles, reduce aggressiveness near end of action. So this is like easing in and out. Milliseconds, how long is the cooldown, the hit timer. Trigger debounce failure, trigger button, debounce time, trigger debounce result, release check, no full auto. So you can turn this off. You can make it like a full auto gun so you don't have to have individual trigger presses. Cooldown time stop, reload button, reload button, allows reloading sequence, time to add shots to ammo bar, current ammo boot up at max. You can change all these parameters. Maybe you only have 10 shots. Maybe you have to do shots back and forth. And honestly, if you had multiple kids, it comes with 2 guns, which is another thing I was worried about because everything else has been kind of singular. It comes with 2 guns, and you ground the pin of the team you want to be on. So like if you had 4 guns, let's say you had 2 kids that both have these packs, you could play teams. Like you could ground out the number 1 pin on 2 of them, make them team 1, and ground out the number 2 pin on the next one, and then you would be that'd be team 2 for 2 and 2, or you could have 3-on-1, or you could have a free-for-all, everybody for themselves. It's really cool, and it goes through and it teaches you this. So, and it's got different levels. So level 1, it just lets you change this, and then level 2 is more intermediate to where you can change other things that a level 1 might not understand, like I don't know, servo speed, for example, right? And it unlocks more. Or you can go to level 3, which is completely unlocked, which is just the full code. So you can see what's grayed out, what you can change here, what you can't on level 1. Level 2, there's more things that you can change and you can't. And then level 3 is just, you can just change it to custom code if you wanted to, all the way through. Like the full code is unlocked. And then it's got the restore code, right, in case you fuck anything up. And then you can also do, if there is a code that's in the database that you can flash. So like up here it says stock code. Then you can do lights code. I don't know what that is. Reload code. Lights, I'm sure, adds lights to it, I'm assuming. And then reload code forces you to reload. Some type of action or time it takes you to reload. It's pretty neat, I think. Here's the little...
Welcome back to Crunch Slide.
You can watch this. It comes with instructions and explains it. Plus, they have like a watch-along video.
And for that...
I want to see him use it.
Labs like this. I just shoot 3 parallel lines out, right? Then when I put the lens right here, you'll notice something...
So this is there's a lens that takes the beam and focuses it.
Very cool.
Hi, I'm Jovan, and let's take a peek under the hood of the laser tag toy. The laser tag toy has the following components. We have an IR receiver, an IR transmitter, the servo motor.
That's pretty cool. That the way they come up with the blacking out of the goggles is what I'm most impressed with. Like they black out your sight for 3 seconds when you've been hit. That's the coolest part of it.
That drives the gears and the polarizers that dim the goggle for the laser tag game. For its sensor, the goggles uses the same IR receiver as you got in the first box, the turret toy. The laser blaster includes an IR transmitter LED, which activates when you press the button, which allows you to send and receive specific messages.
And there's the little Arduino board and how you kind of wire it up.
Ability to generate custom signals.
And it's all plug and play. So there's the team selector, right? You just ground out the team pin.
Allows us to designate teams in the laser tag game and prevent friendly tags. When the Arduino receives an incoming IR signal, it does a bunch of calculations, which we'll talk about in a second, and then sends a signal to activate the servo motor, which turns the polarizers that darken the glasses. Obviously,
the polarizers was a cool effect, I think.
You've been hit. Now let's talk about what the Arduino is actually doing. First,
I figured it would beep or maybe turn your gun off, or maybe vibrate, but the blacking out your vision, I think, is really cool.
The Arduino microcontroller is constantly looking for incoming IR signals. If a signal is detected, the Arduino checks to see if it belongs to a teammate or not. If the signal belongs to the opposing team, the Arduino marks it as a hit and immediately begins rotating the servo motor to shift the polarizers to darken the goggles. As a timeout, the blaster is disabled for 10 seconds when the servo motors start moving. If no hit is detected, the Arduino proceeds to check for a trigger button press. Once pressed, the Arduino checks to see if the button was already pressed in the previous loop. If it wasn't, this means the button press is a new button press. In this case, the blaster shoots a pulse of IR light. This means that each trigger press will only shoot one IR beam. This prevents your opponent from simply holding down the trigger button and spraying light everywhere to get easy tags. Every time the blaster is shot, your Arduino saves a timestamp and prevents any more light pulses from being fired for the next 500 milliseconds. So this means that players must aim each shot intentionally. Now, receiving IR transmissions while communicating with the servo motor are both tasks that require precise timekeeping. The Arduino cannot actually do both simultaneously. To solve that, we make sure that after recording a hit, the Arduino stops checking for incoming IR signals while the servo motor is moving the polarizers. All right, that's it. I hope you have fun with the laser tag toy.
Use the video or some combination goggle frame, 2 small screws, and your screwdriver. Drop the servo down into its mount on the goggle frame.
Here's how you build, basically.
It is centered like this. Next, make sure this should have the right gear.
It comes with a full build and plus a book.
Through its buckle, then loop it through the slot on the other side of the goggle frame. You can then adjust the head groove in the right blaster shell. Now grab the red trigger ports on the breadboard. Plug the black wires into the first for
the kids really had fun with this one. Some of them they just kind of watch it do it or play with it for a minute. The domino stacker they had fun with, right? You can stacks dominoes in a straight line, or you can draw or put tape down for a line and it follows a line.
friendly fire. Okay, so that's the build, and I just gotta say, what I really love about this is, ordinarily, even if you're playing laser tag at like a family fun center, or with some laser tag you just bought off the shelf, sometimes you just feel like your gun isn't firing very well, right? But because you're putting this together, like, you know exactly how it works. So if you feel like your blaster isn't working quite right,
I think that blinders sound dated. I think it's awesome.
just take it apart and make sure, you know, maybe the lens,
Two polarizing lenses.
apart and figure out why it's not working. All right, well,
It's also something cool to teach.
that's it for today. You've certainly earned your gear badge for light collimation. So go put this thing together, have fun playing with it, and then of course, go on the online coding module, tweak this to make it the exact experience you want, because you think like,
It's pretty cool. I mean, like, obviously it's a money racket. It was expensive for the boxes. Well, I guess it depends on what you think is expensive. He's making money off of it, but it's a cool thing, I think. The kids like doing it and like fucking playing with it. It was pretty fun. All right, now that I'm done talking about my own shit. Me and the kids get on the computer sometimes and change the code. I've got it downloaded on Mariah's laptop. Like the actual, not the browser-based one, but the regular one. We plug it up and change the code sometimes. Most of the parts are cut out of wood. They're like laser cut, right? They're like thin wood. And then it comes with like these plastic screws that are easy to put together. Some of them are like screws into tapped holes. Some of them are like plastic bolts and nut kind of deal. But it works together pretty good. I've enjoyed it. And having something to do with the kids. There's the laser tag. There's the domino stacker. There's a label maker that just uses blue painter's tape and a Sharpie. So you throw the Sharpie in it and any roll of blue painter's tape, it adjusts and will make you labels, custom labels. There is almost like a marble sand garden thing where you have like a steel ball bearing and you create designs and it'll write it in a little mini sand table. There is the IR turrets where you can aim it, shoot it, or it can detect people or whatever. I'm trying to think of all the ones we've gotten so far. It was basically, I think it was like $300 for a year, which is 6 of them to build with the boys. But it was all laid out. These are things that I could figure out on my own, I'm sure, and sit down and do. But creating all the parts, doing all the coding, setting it out, it was something cool with the kids. It just shows up and we can put it together. And if they want to get into the coding, that we can. And if they don't, they can just play with it. Not a whole lot of trial and error on my part to do it. I had fun with it. It is Mark Robert. This is the Hack Pack, which is like the upgraded version, but there's another one called Crunch Labs, which is like the younger kids. I got the older one because I figured Liam would be more interested in it than Ollie, but Ollie's fine with it too. It's just some of the like coding and shit's above his head, but Liam can actually get in there, and if he breaks shit, I can just go restore the code and be done with it. Let's see. We finished with Donald Trump's portrait. That was great. Here's a little spicy video.
So I just found out that Donald Trump revoked my security clearance. Here's the funny thing. Dude, I retired a year ago from the military. I don't even have a security clearance. Dumbass. I'm sorry for living rent-free in your head, Donald, but you got this one wrong. So I just found out that Donald Trump revoked my security clearance. Here's the funny thing. Dude, I retired a year ago from the military. I don't even have a security clearance. Dumbass. I'm sorry for living rent-free in your head, Donald, but you got this one wrong. So I just found out that
I think what Donald Trump is doing with law firms is a gigantic fucking threat to democracy. Right? He's singling out law firms that worked for his political opponents and trying to destroy them and anybody that works with them. Like, what the fuck is he doing? That's insane. Private law firms.
Senator John Ossoff, Democratic senator from the swing state of Georgia, just went off on Donald Trump. This is awesome.
And see, this is why things don't work for ordinary people. It's not because of trans kids or woke college students. It's not. It's not because of our new arch enemy, Canada. corruption is why you pay a fortune for prescriptions. The corruption is why your insurance claim keeps getting denied. The corruption is why hedge funds get to buy up all the houses in your neighborhood and Congress doesn't do anything about it.
That's the firm's fault. They fucking cucked, dude. They should have stood strong. A judge would absolutely rule in their favor. But the fact they want to come kiss the ring and say, oh, we'll do $40 million in pro bono work to remove this executive order. That's crazy, dude. That is outright fucking bribery.
See, this is why so many have lost faith.
And you can tell it's already had a chilling effect because the Cooey law firm, they had trouble finding a law firm to represent them in court. So it's already had this chilling effect to where now law firms don't want to bring cases, even valid cases, against the current administration for facing backlash.
In our system. Because the system really is rigged. But Trump's not unrigging it. He's re-rigging it for himself.
Senator John
That's exactly right. Let's go to, I think Legal Beagle did it. Legal Eagle, Legal Beagle. I can't remember. Is it Legal Eagle? Yeah, Legal Eagle. Perkins Coie, is that it? This is it. Dude, I can't believe how many people. Oh, that's what I'll show you. Hold on. I can't believe how overtly racist people are, I guess. You guys remember the podcast we've been checking in with the dudes interviewing his parents? They came out. We'll do the Legal Eagle video in just a second. They came out with a new video. And besides the funny part of his parents not being able to work a camera for like half the show, they're pretty bad. I think mostly his dad, but his mom just goes along with what the dad says. But goddamn, they are getting super racist. Talking about the deportations, and other countries are advising their citizens, if they travel to the United States, delete your social media apps before you get there. Because they are going through people's phones to see if you've made posts critical of the administration and denying you entry into our country. You are allowed to be critical of the administration. Anyways, this quickly.
Aftermath of the 2024 election.
We'll do it kind of fast.
Brink of authoritarian rule.
I'm Chad Colchin. With me, as always, are my parents.
All right, so again, this guy, his sister, his parents, if you haven't seen these before, I really think people should start watching this whole podcast. It's pretty good.
In the MAGA QAnon conspiracy.
At least, I mean, like, I hate that they're racist and the shit they say, and it bothers me, and I understand we're platforming these people, but we need to know how these people think. If they're not going to die before the next election, we need to understand how these people think. And the only way to do that is by talking to them.
Lifestyle, and my sister, a fellow lefty who is maybe fearful, at the very least, is in opposition to the oligarchy and the authoritarian rule we now live under in the United States of America. Hello? Are you
Hi.
Yeah, one guy was a researcher, a world-renowned researcher, who was going to a science thing, right? Like what do they fucking call them? Like the SHOT Show or whatever. Like going to a thing in Texas. And he had posted a convention. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. He had posted that it was ridiculous that the Trump administration was canceling funding for life-saving research. He was denied entry into the country. He posted on his own private social media that we shouldn't be canceling money for researchers. He's a researcher going to a researching convention from France, not from some whatever Muslim country or whatever Trump hates, from France. He was denied entry into our country.
Jesus Christ. All right, we start out the show usually with my mom saying some of her ditties. Now, a lot of people have been asking me why we've named this after Puff Daddy or P. Diddy. We have not. It's D-I-T-T-Y, which means a little song.
You see it?
Yes, we see the fucking banana.
Oh my God.
It's the perfect food.
56 cents each, the perfect food.
Okay.
All right.
I thought you're not supposed to eat a bunch of bananas as a diabetic.
It says not to eat more than 2 a day.
You said you eat 5.
Yeah, so I cut it to 2. $1 a day.
Okay, Mom, do you have some ditties here?
Yes, and I also told him, don't do the banana. Don't do the banana until after I'm done with my ditty. Don't do the banana.
He couldn't help it.
Okay,
Right.
Our astronauts, Sonny and Butch, splashed down our home united with their families. Thank you, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The average astronaut pay a year is $150.
So the ditties are basically like her Trump wins of the week. So she's starting with the astronauts here. She's basically like, I want to come on and talk about what Trump has done good for the country if we're going to be talking bad about him, if y'all are going to be talking bad about him in the podcast. And she starts off the shows with that.
Okay, right. Our astronauts, Sonny and Butch, splashed down our home united with their families. Thank you, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The average astronaut pay a year is $152,000. But while they were up there in outer space, it's called overtime. And they said in overtime, you only get $5 a day. So their whole time up there of them being stressed out and insane and crazy, they made $1,430.
Right.
Donald Trump said he's going to try to make that right or pay them some extra money out of his pocket. But
Yeah, it's never going
We all know Donald Trump pays all of his debts.
Okay. We wish them good health as they are now on the ground and recuperating. R.I.P. George Foreman.
They're paid $5 a day. It's not overtime. It's an expense stipend, right? They're limited to a base rate of $152,000 a year. That's a federal government rate. They get $5 a day in expenditures while they're in orbit, while they're gone from home. It's not overtime. It's not hazard pay. It's for, they figured up expenses, whatever those expenses are. But Donald Trump claims that he may look into giving them some money for being on the space station out of his own pocket. He claims.
We all know Donald Trump.
$30.
Right.
Donald Trump said he's going to try to make that right or pay them some extra money out of his pocket. But
every time Donald Trump says he's going to look into paying money, he's not paying money.
It's never going to.
We all know Donald Trump pays all of his debts.
Okay. We wish them good health as they are now on the ground and recuperating. R.I.P.
By the way, if you see the retards trying to show, hold on. Trying to show that this astronaut came back looking better than she left, they are using a fake photo of her, okay? They're using the photo saying, oh my God, she got a tan and her hair's dyed. Yeah, she was really on a space station for 9 months or whatever. They're using the photo before she left, okay? When she came back, she looked rough. This is her in the wheelchair when she came back. They're using a photo of her in a blue suit. You'll know it's the blue suit because it's the NASA suit she was wearing. She came back in the SpaceX white suit. Okay? She looks pretty rough when she came back. Obviously, it was a struggle. But they're showing a picture of her on the space station with like gray hair and split ends, weightless, with no wrinkles and shit. And then they're using the picture before she left, saying, oh, she looks so much better. She got a tan. It's the people that think that we don't actually go to space. It's the flat earthers, the weirdos, those people. Trying to prove that she wasn't in the space station, I guess.
George Foreman, sad. He died March 21st at the age of 76. Sympathy to his family and friends. He won the heavyweight title twice in the world, and then an Olympic gold, I think.
And he won once when he was like 45 or something.
Those two heavyweight championships, 21 years apart.
Yeah, that's right.
He was a heavyweight champion 21 years apart, which is pretty fucking wild. That was George Foreman.
The last one he won, I think he was 45 or 46. I believe he was the oldest person ever to be a heavyweight champion.
And they said he would never do it. They were like even questioning why he was going to try, and he won it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we remember he retired in 97 with the George Foreman grill that we all have.
Yeah, they're using this photo. They're using this photo and say, look how good she looked when she returned. I bet she was in space. Well, she was. Like, this is the photo before they left. And they're in their NASA blues.
That probably made more money than all the rest. Do you even know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, everybody knows the George Foreman grill.
Okay, let's see. Kennedy released. The files were released. Thank you, Donald Trump. Another promise made and fulfilled by the President of our United States.
The files haven't been released. almost all the files that they put out have already been released over the last 5 releases, including one Joe Biden did. The only thing they did is remove some names of like countries that were involved in intelligence gathering and accidentally leak thousands of people's social security numbers. That's right. The only new shit they've released is literally tons of people's social security numbers.
States. Didn't he say to somebody, though, like, if you want to know what happened, you got to read the 80,000 pages?
I haven't caught that yet, but
he said it in a press conference.
It was 2,200 files released, and those files contained 64,000 pages. There's one college professor that's making his students read them all so they can get adjusted what it's all about. No one, I don't think, has read through them all the way yet. But, you know, it's still like, was there more than one shooter? Was the CIA involved? Was the FBI involved? Nobody's really come out and read them all yet and said what exactly it is. So I'm kind of waiting on that because I don't want to read all that. Okay, are we talking about Tesla attacks later again or not?
Tesla attacks what?
Are we talking about that as a topic or not? The attacks on the cars?
What I want to talk about as a topic is what microphone you're using, because it's not the right one.
Uh-oh.
You got to...
Oh, God. So this kicks off a whole half an hour fucking tech issue.
So that microphone's plugged into your computer. That's number one. And then you have to change the settings.
To what?
To whatever
Tesla.
the name of that microphone is.
I thought I had it on the right one.
Thought he said they did it on purpose. I don't know. I heard they hadn't responded yet. I know they were trying to backtrack and go back and censor them now, but it's too fucking late.
In StreamYard.
Okay, I'm going up now. Audio. Micro. That was it. Okay.
Much better.
Is it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Mary Lou and Bob. Now, see, she moved the camera. So what they got going on here is they got a camera. It's probably that Insta360 one that it's face tracking. So they got a camera that sits on top of their laptop and it tracks a face, but they've got 2 faces. So it's going to pick one when they're close enough. It's going to pick one to track and not track the other one. So they got to remain close and their heads kind of level enough to where it picks them both up. They cannot figure this out.
Did it?
Okay, there we go.
Do I have to redo my banana?
No.
Okay, I think we're going to talk about one of my ditties later, so I won't bring that last one up. We're going to bring up the car bombing, right?
No, we can talk about that right now if you want. These ditties are...
I'm not on the picture.
Oh, Lord.
Well, you've moved it.
He's not on the picture, so he's...
The dad's already gone.
You're going the wrong way.
Turn it towards you.
Wrong way.
Well, that can't be. Oh, it's not camera.
This is unbelievable.
Right? I can move the camera.
So they're turning the laptop, but the camera's just tracking her face. So the more she moves, it doesn't matter how they could turn the laptop backwards and it's still tracking her face.
Right?
Yes.
Which is kind of funny.
Now I can't see you.
I know.
Now it picks him up.
I can see Dad and the microphone.
This is unreal.
Oh, it's so unreal.
I'm going to speed it up some.
That almost fell off. Wait a minute.
For those just listening on the audio version of this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you get a full couple minutes here. My mom trying to position a camera.
There, I'll just go on your key and get my body. Okay, is that better?
No, now you're not in the picture. Can you not see what you're doing?
Jesus.
Yes.
Get a fucking bench or something. You both sit on.
Okay.
Is that better?
No, see how all your head is cut off?
Oh, my God.
Oh, Jesus.
You're stressing me out. Okay. So,
And they keep moving it the wrong way. They keep moving it backwards.
I will just point the camera. You have to move it a little bit to your right.
okay, there.
There we go. Almost. Your whole head is still cut off.
No, move the
See how it cuts off your target? Oh, Jesus Christ, this is killing me. Move the computer. Angle the computer.
She's moving it and it keeps going back to tracking him.
Move it towards you.
I wish I could have done it with my mom and dad too.
Dad, okay, go on. I'm starting to sweat. Okay.
Your head is still not in the frame.
I know.
My dad was funny as fuck. My mom got embarrassed easy, but my dad was
So
funny.
take the computer and turn the computer to your right by about a quarter of an inch.
There.
I guess that's
Dad is sitting on a chair that's way lower than me. So for me to be on the same level as him, I got
Goddamn, well, you're not yelling.
I'm way back there.
Or you can tilt the camera up a little bit.
Okay.
But see how your fourth of your body's being this insane.
Turn the computer.
Oh, God. Okay.
Move the camera. Okay, you want me to fix this?
Got it. No, I just had it.
No, you don't.
Now look how high it is.
Okay, now here you're in the frame. This is unreal. You can't. No, are you seeing it? Okay, that's great. Leave it just like that. We have to go on the show.
There. No,
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Now it's back on him.
I'm not. I would like to see you do it.
Oh my God.
You're doing this on purpose.
Okay, don't move anything. Perfect. Oh, it's moving.
It went down. Good job.
Okay, see how the camera tracks you? There you go.
It tracks you.
Stop fucking moving. Just sit still. Jesus Christ.
We have to continue. This is terrible. Okay.
And they literally ended up still with half her head cut off.
Let's move on to our first topic. Due process is dead in America. I can't believe this is what this is going. At some point, I'm going to have to get with you.
All right, here we go.
The show and
This is what I wanted you to listen. Listen to their mentality around random people being deported for like tattoos to commemorate their kids or what. Like, And we still don't even have a list of names. We're only guessing the people that were deported. Much less charges. We don't even, and we sent them to a country potentially they've never been to before, to a prison they've definitely never been to before, with no charges. We're putting people in prison for no crime in a foreign country. This is wild. And listen how they justify this shit.
You how to use that camera. Due process is dead. This week, Trump deported around 300 Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador's high-security mega prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center without any form of due process. This controversial action relied on the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a rarely used law reserved for wartime use. Despite Trump's claims that the deportees are violent gang members, many of them reportedly have no criminal history or gang affiliations. Franco Jose Carballo Tiapa, a Venezuelan barber seeking asylum, was deported despite no criminal record. Jersey Reyes Barrios was deported because he had a tattoo of his favorite soccer team's logo, which the Trump administration misidentified as a gang tattoo. Then at the northern border, Jasmine Mooney, a Canadian actress and entrepreneur, was detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for 12 days after attempting to enter from Mexico. Or sorry, the southern border. Mooney described being held in harsh conditions, including freezing cells and forced shackling. A French scientist was also denied entry at the U.S. border after authorities discovered personal text messages critical of Donald Trump on his phone. All these deportations and detentions.
I'm very interested in why Trump said he didn't sign the Alien Enemies Act. I know the White House is trying to cover for him and saying, oh, he meant the original one in 1798. No, he didn't. Right? No one thought he signed a law in 1798 or an order in 1798. That's crazy.
Have occurred without immigration proceedings or judicial reviews, which means they are massive human rights violations. Several lawsuits have been filed challenging these deportations and detentions, with civil rights organizations arguing that the administration's policies violate fundamental human rights, due process, and established immigration law. Dad, do you think, well, let me ask you this. Do you think any of these people are not criminals?
No, I think they're all criminals.
Even the ones that are clearly not, that it has been reported they are not?
They're criminals if they're here illegally.
Well, some of them weren't. Some of them had work visas. Some of them had a right to be
They're all
here.
illegal. They're all criminals.
Okay.
They all need to be deported.
They're all illegal. They're not here illegally. Yeah, they're all here illegally. They're all criminals. They all need to be deported. Listen to this.
Mom, do you think that all these people are criminals?
Yeah, I looked them up. I looked up that lady. Her visa was null and void. Going from Canada down there and back, her visa wasn't correct.
Okay, and so you believe the proper response to that is to shackle her and put her in a cell for 12 days?
Yes.
No, but
that was the Canadian actress.
I don't think she should be allowed to come and go until she gets the visa right.
She's shackled until she leaves.
Mom,
the visa's free.
you have to lean into the frame. I don't know again if you can see it, but your eyes are getting cut off. You're not. So there's your whole.
no.
Come on, don't mess with the camera. Don't touch the camera. You have to move.
This is.
Get your chair to go down a little bit.
My chair.
We're back.
There's there's a lever on the side.
God, here we go.
I shouldn't have said
no,
anything.
Chad's getting upset. I can't. God. Is that better?
Yes. Okay.
I'll have a cramp.
Just say yes and move along.
For Dad, this French scientist who got turned away at the border because they searched his phone and found that he had text messages that were negative about Trump. Do you think that A, customs should be able to search your phone, and B, if they find personal text messages that are bad about Trump?
Yeah.
Again, listen to the justification. These are what these people believe. Okay.
Coming across the border, east, south, or north, they should be able to take your butthole apart. Search your phone, do whatever they want.
Other countries are being warned by their governments to not come here because.
When was the last time you think our European allies warned their citizens to either not come here or go through all their conversations and make sure they either deleted it or they haven't said anything bad about our presidents?
Good fucking deal.
Even travelers, even just travelers.
Hang on, Dad.
We don't want you
The question
here.
I'm asking is, do you think that a personal conversation...
This mentality, like you either love Trump or we don't want you here, is wild.
...about Trump is enough to say you can't come into our country?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone you believe that is in America should love Donald Trump. No dissent.
Fuck out.
All right.
So no freedom of...
Or get the fuck out.
Mom, let me ask you this. Do you think that scientists being turned away at the border sends a good message to the rest of the world?
Yes.
Probably not. But are you sure it was just a text message? Maybe he had other things.
It was
on his
from the
agenda.
reporting. It's personal conversations that this guy was having
Yeah,
about
they're
Trump.
reporting. Who's they?
I didn't see that. I didn't read about that one.
Google.
America has, for a long time, my entire life, been seen as kind of the pinnacle of scientific achievement. The greatest minds all over the world
It will
come
be
here.
again once we get rid of these
Scientists.
It doesn't matter. Our scientists are every bit as good as theirs.
I lost my glasses.
People come from all over the world, or at least they did up to
The
this.
reason our science has gone down is because of DEI.
Huh?
Oh God, here we go.
The reason that we're at the forefront, the reason that we've always been at the forefront is because we have funding and people come here because they know that they can do the research.
That's wrong.
Oh dear God.
The reason is because we have the highest education levels in the world. Now we don't. And it's because of DEI. And that's why we are losing ground. And as soon as we get rid of DEI and start putting our best and our brightest in positions instead of our
RFK
blacks,
like RFK?
Yes.
Did you catch that? Our best and our brightest back instead of our blacks.
And start putting our best and our brightest in positions instead of our
RFK
blacks.
Like RFK?
Instead of our blacks.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Smarter than anybody they had in there before.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The other guy that you mentioned, I did read about that one. He had different tattoos that were not related to that.
You're all still pissing and moaning because you lost.
To the gang. In fact, that the gang of the Venezuelans they took away, they really don't do that many tattoos, it said. But they said they're quiet and like there's different ways to find out whether they were a gang member or not. That the third guy that you talked about, he wasn't legal, Chad. He was not an American. He wasn't a citizen.
Well, okay, fine. I'll grant you that, even though you're wrong. Do you think that it is fine?
Was he an American citizen?
What's that?
Was he an American
No, but
citizen?
he was here legally.
How?
On a work
Or if
visa.
you're not a citizen.
Okay, he's bad mouthing the president. He's got to fucking get out of here.
Well, do you think people should be able to seek asylum? Because one of these
If he's bad mouthing the president, he's got to get out of here.
was doing that. Hello?
You can't seek asylum.
No.
Why?
No asylum
Because
seekers
we're
should
not
come to
going to be
America.
home. You guys are missing the whole point. Policy has changed. We are no longer going to be the home for the dredges of the world.
Okay. But don't you think these people should have some ability?
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. We are no longer going to be the home base for the dredges of the world.
To have due process? They can literally, at this point, what they did this week.
They can go home and die.
So no one should get due process then. What if they make a mistake, as they have done this very week?
The only people who are going to get due process are the people Trump says is okay.
All of those people on that airplane, it said.
The only people that get due process are people that Trump says are okay.
End of story.
They had investigated. They'd done the.
You quit your whining.
And they were on that airplane for a reason.
The reason is Trump made this bold claim when he was running that he's going to deport 5 million people or whatever.
So now they got to find those people.
Exactly. And if you just
There
don't
you go.
look right, if you have a tattoo they don't like or don't understand, you're getting on a plane to go to El Salvador to a mega prison where you're probably going to die.
Good.
But these people aren't, in some cases.
Good. We will find out eventually that some percentage of those people were completely fucking innocent. Good.
Because these people aren't gang members.
These
We
are
don't
crimes against humanity.
I don't give a shit. Humanity needs to lose a few bods.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. Israel.
Can you believe this shit? That's wild the way these people think about America. After they're retired. They've already reaped all the benefits out of America, right? Sitting back and saying nobody else. This is literally climbing the ladder and then pulling it up behind you.
This week broke their ceasefire. This week, Netanyahu ordered a series of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, breaking a 2-month ceasefire with Hamas. The attacks resulted in over 400 Palestinian deaths, including 183 children and 94 women, making it one of the deadliest days of the war. Trump backed Netanyahu's decision to break the ceasefire based on Hamas's reported refusal to release additional hostages and its alleged preparations for further attacks. This U.S. support for Israel's actions raised concerns about the viability.
By the way, there's an entire group of people that refused to vote for Kamala Harris because she wasn't tough enough on Israel. Now we've got Israel surprising the enemy, breaking a ceasefire and killing people in Gaza. And Trump saying, yeah, I agree 100%. They already got the wink and the nod from Trump. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Future ceasefire agreements in which the U.S. plays a mediating role, specifically any potential ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. Dad, do you think it was okay for Netanyahu to break the ceasefire?
Sure.
Why?
Israel has every right to liquidate and annihilate all of Hamas, all of the Houthis, and all of the Iranians.
Okay.
And anything he does to achieve that faster is a good move.
I think that
Anything he does to kill those people faster is a good move.
they did kill one of the biggest.
Again, Brown is terrorists. Children, terrorists. People in hospitals, terrorists.
People over there, the bad guys.
Sooner or later, the two of you are going to realize what the rest of the world already knows. Hamas and the Houthis are no longer. They're going to be dead and Iran keeps giving them arms, they're going to be right behind them.
It just means that all
Israel's
these
gonna
political
kill them all.
leaders, you can't take their word for it. They're not trustworthy. They'll do whatever they want. Israel, for starters,
What do you mean?
Netanyahu. There was a fucking ceasefire and he broke it.
Yeah,
That's criminal.
because
And he killed like
shot some more-
200 innocent women and children.
Yeah, he shot some more missiles.
That's not what he's saying. That's not even their claim. Their claim is that they haven't returned the hostages.
Payback's hell.
How about the innocent Israelis that were down in the tunnels and the women that they raped and killed?
Well, let's talk about that.
The only solution to this argument is all the Palestinians have to die.
Okay.
Bro, I'm not even like, fuck Israel, right? I'm like, hey, we need a two-state solution with guaranteed, some type of security guarantees, same ones I want in Ukraine. And we need to get Palestine to where they control their own import, exports, power, shit like that, so they can't be cut off in these humanitarian disasters. But every Palestinian should die is crazy. And proud of it, too.
Mom, you brought up the hostages. If you could just lean into frame so that we can see your face, that would be great. Thank you. So there were hostages that were on the table. That's how the ceasefire was bargained in the first place. It was like, we have these hostages. We will not kill them if you promise not to launch missiles and attacks on us. So in breaking that ceasefire, do you think that Netanyahu essentially signed the death warrant of those remaining hostages?
I have no idea.
They don't give a fuck about the hostages. Donald Trump wants to build like another casino in Gaza.
Yes.
Yeah, and the easiest way to do that is to fucking annihilate an entire population of people.
There we go.
It has nothing to do with Israelis. It has nothing to do with that. He just wants to make money. He wants to kill people and make money.
Dad, let me ask you this. You have multiple...
I don't know if he's trying to be like snarky and funny or what. I don't know what his deal is.
Times on this very show called for the absolute, as you just said, liquidation of an entire population. You're for genocide.
I'm for Palestinian genocide, yes.
Do you believe...
Do they know what they're saying?
Mom, you have to stop moving the camera.
I'm trying to get my head in the... Okay, go.
Do you believe, Dad, that you are an average Trump voter? Do you believe your attitudes of genocide reflect what most Trump voters want?
Oh, yeah, I'd say 90% of them. And the ones who tell you that, and the ones that tell you they don't are lying.
Okay, Mom, bye.
No, I'm coming back.
Part of the show is that you have to sit here for an hour. You can't get up and move around. Okay. Mom, do you think that these attitudes of genocide reflect the average feelings of the Trump voter?
I have no idea. Maybe not all the way, but partly yes.
Are you for genocide?
No. And when Haley brought up the Gaza Strip and you know, the resorts and all that Trump said he wanted to do, how about Ukraine building a $1.4 billion ski resort?
First of all, this is whataboutism. Second of all, there are people that are claiming they're building a ski resort. The country of Ukraine is building a ski resort with money that we have funded them. BlackRock is building a ski resort. Investors are building a ski resort on the border between Ukraine and Poland, one of the areas that's not fucked with very much in the war because Poland's just waiting for a reason to attack Russia. When we were at war in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 plus fucking years, did you get mad at the Dollar Generals popping up everywhere? Like, this has nothing to do with it. First of all, it's whataboutism from the Palestinian question, but even the question about the ski resort in Ukraine is nothing.
On their border with Poland.
What does this have to do with Gaza? We're not talking about that at all?
We're talking about money gone awry there.
That has nothing to do.
Do you think businesses stop? Like, the Elder Millennial did a video on it, and everybody in the comments was like, this is where our $350 billion in aid went. It's an investment firm that is building a business in a country. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
To do with the conversation at hand, but thank you for bringing it up.
Israelis are right. Let them do their job.
Okay, now, my next question is this. Netanyahu broke this ceasefire. Trump backed that decision. Do you think that in any way weakens our political position, at least in terms of a mediator in any other potential ceasefire like in Ukraine?
No.
How do you think no?
Because now they know the answer to all your little questions is if Trump says it's going to go, and there ain't a damn thing you fucking do to stop it.
You're exactly wrong. Trump said.
No, I'm not.
That ceasefire, in part, was kind of brokered by us. We were in those talks as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. And so now...
Well, you better get on board. You better get on board with who's in charge of the Gaza war.
Just listen to what I'm saying.
And it's not fucking
Listen
Donald Trump.
to me.
Okay.
That ceasefire was The ceasefire was broken at the behest of Donald
It
Trump.
reminds me so much of Mariah's grandparents. Like, Mariah's grandfather is just like this. Grandpa's just like this. And her grandmother just kind of goes along with whatever he says and has the same beliefs because she's not allowed to have an opinion.
So now if we are part of a mediation of any other ceasefire in the world, it is worthless. You don't see that?
Dude, any ceasefire in the world.
Oklahoma City.
Dude, let's talk about ceasefires, dude.
Any ceasefire at all in the world has no meat to it at all anyway.
Then why have them?
Exactly.
Okay, you think the war should never...
Fuck the ceasefire and get on with annihilation.
The United States is lawless.
Fuck the ceasefire, get on with the annihilation.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that brings us to our very next point, Trump versus the law. This week, Trump engaged in open disregard for the authority of the judicial branch, leading many to wonder if we're already living under an authoritarian regime. Despite a federal judge's order to halt deportation flights of Venezuelan immigrants to El Salvador, the administration proceeded with the expulsions. We talked about that earlier. Trump and his loyalists also escalated attacks on the judiciary this week on social media with suggestions to impeach judges who rule against the administration.
I don't want to rip off his whole show, but if this is something that interests, it kind of, like, I'm disgusted by their viewpoint, obviously, but it does. I never thought that you would have people this openly, especially to put it on the internet. Maybe they don't understand what they're putting on the internet. Like, I could see somebody having this conversation with their family at fucking Thanksgiving or some shit, right? And saying some awful shit. But coming on and doing a podcast and say, I just didn't think they would be there. But it does open your mind up to what they actually believe and what they see and stuff. The podcast is called The Necessary Conversation. It doesn't have a whole lot of subscribers yet. They're getting a lot of backlash because of how racist his parents come across. But I do think it's interesting to see, like, into that mentality. And they do push back against them, right? It's not like it's just openly like a fucking Nick Fuentes show, right? They do have the pushback and trying to get them to see the other side. It just hasn't worked yet. All right, back to this, the legal beagle. This is about the law firms that Trump is basically attacking, weaponizing his seat to influence law firms, private law firms.
Hates their lawyers. In the complaint, Perkins Coie said
rates. Caroline Assassin getting the Trump administration enjoined from conducting its utterly lawless actions. As White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt mentioned, the Trump administration is being enjoined at historic rates. Caroline, that's not the flex that you think it is. That's what we call in the legal profession a self-own.
Why would they be enjoined, which means an injunction placed against them, at historic rates? Because the woke, left, liberal judges, activists.
But that might be why Trump is starting to go after the lawyers themselves. Once again, he is attacking professionals for their constitutionally protected activity.
That's true.
And this is very bad, but at least
you can't keep using that's just how I was raised as an excuse.
One law firm is fighting back. Chaos lawyer Liz Dye has more.
Thanks, Devin. On March 6, President Trump signed an executive order addressing risks from Perkins Coie LLP. He said the dishonest and dangerous activity of the law firm Perkins Coie has affected this country for decades. Then he laid out a raft of sanctions on the law firm. The order was immediately enjoined by a federal judge who said it sent chills up her spine. Immediately enjoined by a federal judge. You can't say because they worked for the people who ran against me that they're some type of threat and anybody who works with them are also a threat. Fine, but within hours of the judge's ruling, Trump signed a second, virtually identical order attacking another law firm. The executive orders not only bar the government from engaging with those law firms, whatever that means, they purport to bar anyone who does business with the federal government from engaging with the firms. It almost seems like these law firms and anybody that engage with them are now cut off from the federal government in any way, shape, or form. Like, can't represent anybody. I don't know. We don't know what that entails. And since more or less every large corporation in America does business with the government, the orders are functionally a death penalty to the firms. And that's clearly the point. President Trump wants to use the... So none of these firms can ever represent a corporation ever again because corporations engage, whether they want to or not, with the government. Just interstate commerce is engaging with the government. Power of his office to crush his enemies and make an example of them to ensure that no one will dare to cross him again, which is very much not what the presidency is for. But okay, let's rewind the tape a second. Who or what is Perkins Coie? The law firm Perkins Coie was founded in Seattle in 1912 by a retiring federal judge and a former U.S. attorney. It's now the largest firm in the Pacific Northwest with 21 offices and about 2,500 employees. Perkins Coie has a robust corporate practice and a strong association with the tech industry. Its lawyers have represented Google, Meta, Twitter, Amazon, Microsoft, and Intel, all of which do business with the federal government. But that's not what upset the president. The executive order decries the firm's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, falsely claiming that Perkins Coie implemented percentage quotas in 2019 for hiring and promotion.
This just isn't true. They've denied this 100%. But he claims that because they engage a private business decides to engage in DEI practices, that there's some type of threat to America.
On the basis of race and other categories prohibited by civil rights laws. That did not happen. Saying your firm aspires to increase the diversity of our workforce and advance the values of diversity and inclusion in the legal profession is not a quota system, nor is it illegal. So when Trump says Perkins Coie's disrespect for the bedrock principles of equality represents good cause to conclude that they neither have access to our nation's secrets nor be deemed responsible stewards of any federal funds, that's classic viewpoint discrimination in violation of the First Amendment. Perkins Coie has also been involved in many...
The way I can't fathom that people can't understand this, when you take it to a MAGA person and say, what if he was doing this against a law firm because the owners were Christian? And they can't comprehend. I've already shown they can't engage in a hypothetical. They can't fathom it. He wouldn't do that. He would never do that. He just wouldn't do that. He's a Christian. You know he's a Christian, right? It's the hypothetical, bro. It's a viewpoint. They have a viewpoint. What if a law firm's website said, and we're all believers in Jesus Christ, and he barred them from doing any business with the federal government ever, or any companies that are represented by them from doing any business with the federal government ever? He wouldn't do that. He would never do that. He loves Jesus.
Lawsuits to vindicate voting rights, or as Trump put it, the firm worked with activist donors, including George Soros, to...
I've noticed that's the ultimate Trump card, right? Anytime Trump does something based on a viewpoint or a belief or some type of practice that's outside of his control that has nothing to do with the government, if you change that over to Christianity, they can't engage with it. They melt down.
Judicially overturn popular, necessary, and democratically enacted election laws, including those requiring voter identification. That phrase, judicially overturn, is kind of a tell, because in fact courts did side with Perkins Coie in multiple cases to protect ballot access in the lead up to the 2020 election and to stop Trump from stealing
ballot access.
Biden's electoral votes in the aftermath. So the fact that Perkins Coie clients won those cases is pretty good evidence that there was nothing.
And it wasn't even them. They just represented clients that were pushing back on ballot access. It wasn't a law firm. The law firm didn't try to take this up.
Inappropriate about them. But that didn't stop the White House from releasing an official fact sheet accusing the firm of the unforgivable sin of filing lawsuits against the Trump administration, including one designed to reduce military readiness. That's a reference to an ongoing challenge to Trump's order kicking all trans service members out of the military. Again,
so they're currently representing somebody, the trans people in the military, and they're trying to judicially, the way the system's set up, to push back. And he says they're trying to undermine military readiness. These orders are fucking wild, dude.
Again, the Trump administration is losing on those issues in court. And even if they weren't, sanctioning lawyers because you don't like their clients is pretty fundamentally un-American. But brass tacks, what Trump is really mad about is that the firm represented Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee, or DNC, during the 2016 election. In 2016, Perkins Coie had a large political practice group led by attorney Mark Elias, who represented Clinton and the DNC. Elias played a role in assembling the infamous Steele dossier, or as Trump put it in his executive order, while representing failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, Perkins Coie hired Fusion GPS, which then manufactured a false dossier designed to steal an election. The truth is a little bit more complicated than that. The conservative Washington Free Beacon originally paid the British company Fusion GPS to do Oppo research on Trump. But when Trump secured the presidential nomination, the Beacon tapped out and Fusion GPS approached the DNC about taking over the project. Elias agreed, and Fusion GPS hired the former MI6 agent Chris Steele to dig up dirt for what eventually became known as the Steele dossier. Steele's report said some things that were definitely true. The Russian government really did support Trump over Clinton. Vladimir Putin's cronies really were flooding America's social media platforms with divisive anti-Hillary memes and releasing hacked emails using WikiLeaks as a sock puppet. Trump really had negotiated for Trump Tower Moscow well into 2016 at a time when he insisted he had nothing to do with Russia. But some of Steele's other reports, such as the claim that Trump was being blackmailed by Russians, turned out to be false. Plus, there was all that stuff about the P-tape. The dossier was indeed one source cited to support some FBI warrants in the Russia investigation. But the FBI investigation of the Trump campaign's ties to Russia was open because one of Trump's aides, George Papadopoulos, got drunk and blabbed to an Australian diplomat that Russia was going to start releasing hacked information to hurt Hillary Clinton, which they did. Fusion GPS and Steele eventually became so alarmed at what they discovered digging into Trump that they sent their dossier to various law enforcement and media outlets. Eventually, the website BuzzFeed published it in January of 2017. Meanwhile, another attorney from Perkins Coie's political practice group, Michael Sussman, tried to get the FBI to investigate a story about a server in the basement of Trump Tower Manhattan, which was in communication with a Russian bank. That came to nothing, and of course, Trump got elected in 2016, but he's been mad about it ever since. During his first term, Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr appointed special counsel.
It's literally retaliation.
John Durham to investigate the origins of the Trump-Russia investigation. Durham tried very hard to make what happened into a crime, not just a bunch of civil servants doing their jobs in the middle of a political maelstrom. He hoped to prove a conspiracy between the DNC, Perkins Coie, and the FBI to gin up the Russia investigation, but there's never any there. After a trial that was frankly embarrassing for the Justice Department, a jury swiftly acquitted Sussman, and when Durham indicted Steele's source Igor Danchenko, a jury tossed those charges too. At the end of the day, all Durham had to show for 4 years of effort was a pissy report that said a lot of mean things about the DNC and suggested that the FBI should have been more skeptical before it opened an investigation.
Somebody just said Trump looks like adult Bobby Hill, and I can't unsee it now. Is that the problem? Is it too Bobby Hill from King of the Hill? I didn't even realize it till someone else said it. It is very Bobby Hill. Maybe that's the problem.
The end. I'm kidding, it wasn't the end. First, Trump sued Elias, Sussman, Clinton, the DNC, Perkins.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
Coie and a whole bunch of other people in federal court in Florida. Those other people included former FBI Director James Comey, along with Trump's own Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. Trump's theory was that they had all participated in a RICO against him and should pay him millions of dollars. Relevantly, this was in a period after Trump had tried to overturn the 2020
Somebody put, hope this artist knows how to speak El Salvadorian. Sorry.
election, and most major law firms refused to represent him. The lawyers in the Clinton RICO case were Alina Habba, the family law attorney from New Jersey who befriended him at his Bedminster Country Club, and Peter Tickton, a personal injury lawyer from Florida who roomed with Trump 6 decades ago at boarding school and got Trump named ladies' man in their high school yearbook. Nor Tickton had any experience with election law or civil RICO, and U.S. District Judge Donald Middlebrooks dismissed the case and sanctioned the lawyers for filing such a ridiculous piece of crap.
Sanction the lawyers for filing such a ridiculous argument, right?
He said this case should never have been brought. Its inadequacy as a legal claim was evident from the start. No reasonable lawyer would have filed it. Plus, he fined the lawyers and Trump $1 million to pay the legal fees for all those defendants who got dragged down to Florida to deal with that troll suit. Keep that one in mind when Trump justifies his order by pointing to one time when Perkins Coie got an $8,500 sanction for filing a duplicative motion in the Fifth Circuit. Trump is still fighting the Florida sanctions in the 11th Circuit, but in the meantime, he's taking a different kind of revenge on Perkins Coie now that he's back in the White House. The March 6th order directs the Attorney General, the Director of National Intelligence, and all other relevant heads of executive departments and agencies to suspend any active security clearances held by individuals of Perkins Coie pending a review of whether such clearances are consistent with the national interest. This is actually not the first time Trump has revoked security clearances for lawyers he doesn't like. On February 25th, he ordered the Attorney General to suspend any active security clearances held by Peter Koski and all members, partners, and employees of Covington and Burling who assisted former Special Counsel Jack Smith during his time as Special Counsel, pending a review and determination of their roles and responsibilities, if any, in the weaponization of the judicial process. That appears to have been provoked by a February 14th Politico article surfacing a financial disclosure from Smith, who filed charges against Trump for stealing documents and attempting to overturn his election loss in 2020. In the disclosure, Smith reported that he'd received pro bono legal advice from lawyers at Covington, one of the most respected law firms in the country, and so in revenge,
Covington is the other one he's going out. And he said, hey, Jack Smith said, hey, I went to Covington when we were thinking about these charges.
Trump yanked security clearances from any lawyer who dared to advise his hated rival. He also ordered the government to cancel all contracts.
Somebody said, bro, for real, that's Shane Gillis, the Trump portrait.
With Covington, of which there don't appear to be any. The New York Times reports that Covington hopes to keep its head down and
a little bit.
Trouble. Quote, instead, the firm, concerned about a perception among its clients that it was falling out of favor with Mr. Trump, has begun discussions with other prominent law firms with fewer ties to Mr. Trump's perceived enemies about becoming the face of some of their most.
So they've already talking about like losing business and losing support in other firms.
Important cases before the Justice Department.
Because they don't want to become Trump's enemies, which is terrifying. What world do we live in where you can't get a a law firm to represent a valid case because you're afraid that the president will come after you.
Trump has also taken swipes at other lawyers, including Mark Zaid, who had a security clearance for decades and made a career representing federal whistleblowers. His clients include the whistleblower who told Congress about the call where Trump pressured Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to do us a favor, though, leading to the first impeachment. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard announced the revocation of Zaid's clearance in a tweet, along with those of former Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, all people Trump feels crossed him personally. So can the president do that, even though it's pretty clearly an act of petty revenge? Well, yeah. It's within the president's power to revoke security clearances at any time for any reason. Zaid himself acknowledged that in an interview with the website Mother Jones, that there's basically no recourse if the president makes the arbitrary decision to revoke security clearances. He said, suppose on his first day of office, the president says, here's a list of 150 individuals who I believe worked against me, and therefore they are a threat to the national security of the United States. Their clearances are hereby revoked. That is the end of the road. There's no ability to legally challenge that in a viable way. But the president did not stop at security clearances. In the Perkins-Coie order, he said to prevent the transfer of taxpayer dollars to federal contractors whose earnings subsidize, among other things, racial discrimination, falsified documents designed to weaponize the government against candidates for office, and anti-democratic election changes that invite fraud and distrust, government contracting agencies shall, to the extent permissible by law, require government contractors to disclose any business they do with Perkins-Coie and whether that business is related to the subject of the government contract. He gave federal agencies 30 days to ferret out which government contracts were going to clients of Perkins-Coie and cancel them if possible. And he
Cancel all the contracts going to this one.
went even further, ordering the heads of all agencies to provide guidance limiting official access from federal government buildings to employees of Perkins-Coie when such access would threaten the national security of or otherwise be inconsistent with the interests of the United States, and limiting government employees acting in their official capacity from engaging with Perkins-Coie employees to ensure consistency with the national security and other interests of the United States. Finally, he said that the federal government should refrain from hiring employees of Perkins-Coie absent a waiver from the head of the agency, only doing so with both the cabinet secretary and the director of the Office of
You have to have a waiver if you've ever worked for this law firm.
Personal management sign off on it. So what does that all mean? Is Trump saying that a bookkeeper in the firm's tax department can't enter the Social Security Administration? That lawyers from Perkins-Coie can't walk into a federal courthouse or talk to prosecutors at the Department of Justice? That if an administrative assistant at Perkins-Coie wants to get a secretarial job at the EPA, Administrator Lee Zeldin and the head of the OPM both have to sign off on it? Under this order, all 2,500 employees of Perkins-Coie could be banned from entering the post office. I mean, I don't want to get too technical here, but that's fucking nuts. On March 11th, Perkins-Coie sued the administration in federal court in D.C. It took a minute to file the complaint because multiple law firms refused to have anything to do with it.
Multiple law firms would not represent them in courts. It's already having an effect. It's undermining the justice system.
The New York Times reports that other major law firms expressed concerns that if they represented Perkins-Coie, they too could face Mr. Trump's ire. Leaders of top firms asked how would their own clients react if Mr. Trump cut off their access to the government. In particular, Quinn Emanuel, the mega firm which represents Elon Musk, refused to take the case. Eventually, Williams & Connolly, a litigation firm with a strong history of taking on the Justice Department, stepped up to the plate. And before we talk about the complaint, let's skip to the signature line. I count 14 names there, and at least 5 others have entered their appearance since then. That's a show of force and, frankly, a little bit of shade.
They're doing it on purpose. They all want their name attached to it. All of them want their fucking name attached to it. Fuck you.
Hated all the law firms that were too scared to get involved in this case. These guys came out swinging. On the first page of the complaint, they called Trump's executive order an affront to the Constitution and our adversarial system of justice, whose plain purpose is to bully those who advocate points of view that the president perceives as adverse.
Dude, it's not even right that lawyers who represent like heinous criminals get a bad rap, right? Like a lot of times people are like, I can't believe that person would represent a murderer or this person or that piece of shit over there. And it's just your bias coming out. Much less that the president of the United States takes personal interest in destroying a law firm that represented somebody he doesn't like. That's crazy.
First, to the views of his administration. They point out that Trump promised on the campaign trail to imprison his enemies for long-term prison sentences and made sure to specify that this legal exposure extends to lawyers. The retaliatory aim of the order is intentionally obvious to
He even threatened it before he got into office, that he'd put them in prison.
The general public and the press, because the very goal is to chill future lawyers.
What is the over-under that by the end of the year, U.S. citizens, U.S. born and raised citizens will be in jail in El Salvador? And how the fuck can people be okay with that? That there's even a fucking chance.
From representing particular clients. And clearly it worked, since so many firms wanted nothing to do with the Perkins-Coie lawsuit. But just in case anyone failed to get the message that suing the government is going to be bad for...
He's already talking about rounding up Tesla people and sending them to El Salvador.
your professional health going forward, Trump went on air with Maria Bartiromo to say that he definitely does intend to target a bunch of law firms.
I just saw you sign executive orders for law firms. One of the law firms was Perkins Coie. Yeah, that was the law firm that had the Steele dossier.
Yeah, they had the Steele dossier, they had a lot of other things. And we have a lot of law firms that we're going to be going after because they were very dishonest people. They were very, very dishonest. They could go point after point after point, and it was so bad for our country. And we have a lot of law firms that we're going after.
Yikes. Okay, let's talk about the very many ways this executive order is wildly illegal. First, Perkins Coie argues that it violates the separation of powers because taking away their right to do business is a punishment that only a court can impose. Essentially, the president is acting like judge, jury, and executioner. They say it violates due process about 6 different ways. Due process is the steps the government has to take to do stuff to you that you don't like. So if the government wants to come in your house, they have to get a warrant. If they want to throw you in jail, they have to indict you and convince a jury that you did the crime. Here, Trump just declared the punishment, which is functionally taking away Perkins Coie's right to practice law. And there's no process at all or means for the law firm to challenge it other than filing this lawsuit. It also violates due process to have a law or rule that's so nebulous that you can't figure out how not to violate it. That's called being void for vagueness. And since nobody can actually figure out how this bizarro executive order is going to be carried out, it's so vague as to be unconstitutional. Perkins Coie also argues that the order violates their First Amendment rights by penalizing speech that favors diversity, and it violates their clients' First Amendment rights by forcing them to disclose their attorney-client relationships with the firm. It also violates the Fifth and Sixth Amendments because it denies Perkins Coie's clients the right to counsel of their own choosing. But other than that, no problem at all. Very cool, very legal. I think it's really important to point out that this executive order is functionally a death sentence for Perkins Coie. It's a big, expensive law firm, and most of its clients are corporations. All big corporations deal with the government, and all of them are going to be terrified of getting cut off from government work if the Mad King hates their lawyers. In the complaint, Perkins Coie says every single one of the firm's 9 main client-facing practice groups intersects with the federal government, and each includes clients with business before the federal government.
He knows this. It would be impossible to be a law firm that big and represent that many clients, and none of them have ties to the fucking federal government some way.
Practice groups by headcount are commercial litigation.
Again, interstate commerce, like commerce across state lines, if you're a corporation, is dealing with the government.
Business and intellectual property, which together account for approximately 75% of the firm's attorneys. If lawyers for the government won't talk to counsel from Perkins Coie, the firm is functionally out of business. And that's not speculative. According to a declaration filed by David Berman, the chair of Perkins Coie's governance task force, the firm represents clients in civil and criminal matters before more than 50 federal agencies. Those clients began dropping the firm as a direct result of the executive order, and they've already lost clients with millions of dollars in fees who fear that their lawyers won't be allowed to interact with federal agencies or that their cases will receive added scrutiny and worse treatment because the counsel they chose to represent them are out of favor with the regime. And that fear's not ill-founded. Within hours of the order being signed, an official of a federal agency informed a client of Perkins Coie that because of the order, the client's Perkins Coie lawyers should not attend a scheduled meeting with an office of that agency to discuss a pending matter. The client was forced to hire other attorneys, meaning that this order is already depriving Perkins Coie's customers of their Sixth Amendment right to the lawyer of their choosing. The complaint asked the court to declare the executive order unconstitutional as violative of the separation of powers in Article 2 and First, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments to the Constitution, and permanently enjoin its enforcement. They also moved for a temporary restraining order on several provisions of the Trump edict, although not the part about the security clearances. The motion pointed out that allowing the order to go into effect would make it immensely harder for clients who are unpopular with the current administration to find legal representation. If this order stands, nothing will prevent the next president from meting out punishment to lawyers who represent his or her opponents. The public interest and indeed the very functioning of our legal system demand entry of a TRO.
Yes, even lawyers need a good lawyer. But if you want a great lawyer, my law firm, the Eagle Team, can help.
Crazy, dude.
After a data breach, especially if you got one of those data breach letters saying your information might have been leaked, or dealing with a workers' comp or social security issue, we can represent you or help find you the right attorney. And by the way, we don't get paid unless you do, so there's nothing up front. So just click on the link in the description or call the phone number that's on screen right now for a free consultation with my team. Because you don't need a legal team, you need the Eagle Team.
On March 12th, Judge Beryl Howell held a hearing on Perkins Coie's motion for a temporary restraining order. I listened to that hearing, and it was bizarre. First of all, Justice Department Chief of Staff Chad Mizell argued the government's case rather than a more junior staffer. Normally, a much less senior employee would handle courtroom arguments, but presumably any lawyer with career ambitions to work in private practice someday is staying far away from a case where the government's position is that the president is entitled to burn down any law firm he likes with a stroke of a pen. Mizell argued that the president has absolute power to make decisions regarding national security, and so all he needs to do is say, I'm doing this crazy thing for national security, and a judge isn't allowed to review it. Judge Howell asked if the next presidential order would be addressing risks from Williams and Connolly, and Mizell said he didn't think so, but he couldn't promise anything. Not reassuring. In fact, Mizell wasn't prepared to say anything at all about how this order would be carried out. Would the DOJ refuse to confer with Perkins Coie lawyers in ongoing cases? How's national security served by barring a receptionist at Perkins Coie from getting a job at the Small Business Administration? Would the 2,500 employees of Perkins Coie be barred from federal parks? Mizell couldn't say. But he said the chaos and confusion did not mean that the law was void for vagueness. It meant that the challenge was unripe. That is, if Perkins Coie didn't know exactly the manner in which the president was going to ruin their business, they shouldn't get relief from the court yet.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Perkins Coie was represented by Dane Butswinkus, the managing partner.
They can impose fines, sanctions, holding people in contempt, jail sentences, but ultimately it's on a different branch. Like if it comes to like physical force and shit.
Williams and Connolly, and a storied D.C. litigator. He called the president's order a
sanctioning attorneys, pulling their sanctioning attorneys and not allowing them to proceed. Yeah. Ultimately, it's on somebody else, right?
And a tsunami waiting to hit the firm that would make lawyers fearful of representing unpopular clients because the government might retaliate by functionally shutting them down, referring to Meisel's claim that the president can do literally...
Ultimately, they rely on federal law enforcement and prosecutors and the rest of the system, Congress to step in, somebody. The U.S. Marshal Service, which is part of the Justice Department, that's one of their enforcement arms. That's the reason they like escort prisoners and shit, is because the marshals fall under the Federal Department of Justice.
Anything he likes if he claims to be doing it based on national security, but Swinka said, that's a different constitution than I am familiar with, and if left unchecked, we'll be left in a country we barely recognize. And Judge Howell agreed. In a lengthy ruling from the bench, she decried the chilling effect of this executive order, which threatens to significantly undermine the integrity of our entire legal system. She called...
Again, the whole system is just based on everybody else playing by the rules. And now we've got somebody who is not going to play by the rules. I don't know.
James and Connolly brave for taking the case and said, I am sure many in the legal profession are watching in horror about what Perkins Coie is going through here. The judge also called out the totally arbitrary exercise of executive power. She said,
so the last time we had something like this that I can think of is when Southern schools refused to integrate, right? To desegregate. And we ended up having to call up the fucking National Guard and force them to.
Said this may be amusing in Alice in Wonderland, where the Queen of Hearts yells off with their heads at annoying subjects and announces a sentence before a verdict, but this cannot be the reality we are living under. Off with his head! Judge Howell granted the temporary restraining order and scheduled a hearing on the preliminary injunction for the week of April 21. So far, the government has not appealed, but it didn't back down either.
Eisenhower wasn't a fan of the court's ruling to force desegregation, but eventually he came around and called up the National Guard.
2 days after Judge Howell's ruling, Trump was out with a new order addressing risks from Paul Weiss. Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Borton, and Garrison is another 100-odd-year-old law firm with 1,200 lawyers and offices around the globe. Trump is mad that Paul Weiss hired attorney Jeannie Rhee, a former federal prosecutor who participated in the Mueller investigation, and he's mad they hired Mark Pomerantz, another experienced prosecutor who worked on the Manhattan District Attorney's criminal case against him. Plus, he's mad about DEI, although in a general kind of way.
Extremely terrifying. And it blows my fucking mind that MAGA, the ones who kept screaming the Constitution and you got to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. The Supreme Court said it, so tough. They won't fucking even treat it like it's serious. He's ignoring judges, and they're calling for them to be impeached.
Way, he just says Paul Weiss, along with nearly every other large, influential, or industry-leading law firm, makes decisions around targets based on race and sex. As we say in the legal profession, citation needed. Trump wants to deliver the same body blow to Paul Weiss that he did to Perkins Coie. Canceled it.
But there isn't a physical enforcement. Like, there isn't a team that shows up and says, okay, we stop these planes. If anything, they go out, and then you could be held in contempt or whatever. Then they can issue warrants, and then that's the marshals, U.S. Marshals. But even that's just to get them to court or serve contempt or whatever. If you want to actually criminally charge them for defying, then you have to rely on the federal prosecutors, which are in his pocket, or Congress to step in and impeach.
Their security clearances, lock them out of government buildings, and penalize their clients. Off with his head!
Trump went after, what is it? It's the... Hold on, I'm looking it up. The U.S. Institute of Peace, which isn't even like they're completely independent of the federal system, right? They're completely independent, and he had the fucking police. They wouldn't let Doge in, right? Said they had no authority to be in. So he had the police, members of the fucking Secret Service, other federal law enforcement agencies show up and break the fuck in.
So, to all those big law firms that refused to speak up when the president came for Perkins Coie, much less defend the firm in court, because you thought keeping your head down would save you.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Thanks, Liz. Now, the silence from other big law firms is deafening and is yet more bad news for the rule of law.
It's horrible right now. Leadership of the U.S. Institute of Peace has known for weeks that Trump administration, as well as Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, had its eyes on them. But that foresight didn't seem to matter when Washington's D.C. local police force escorted them away from the building Monday afternoon and allowed a new regime to take over. We have been talking to them for many weeks now in anticipation of just this possibility, and also to remind them that we are a private, nonprofit corporation inside the District of Columbia and therefore not a federal agency. George Moose, head of the Institute until this week, told reporters on the steps of the building that day. And therefore, the federal government had no entitlement to come in and take over our building. Yet the building, with its arched facade across the street from the State Department, became the site of a tense standoff this week between the Institute's employees and staffers of the Trump administration. U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell denied a request Wednesday by the Institute to stop the takeover, saying it was difficult to determine whether the Trump administration's actions were lawful. The judge said a fundamental question remains as to whether the Institute, which works to prevent violent conflicts abroad, is an independent agency or part of the executive branch. Doge entering in a dramatic fashion isn't all that unusual these days. The group itself, not a government agency, is working to gut the U.S. Department of Education, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, among others, which is unusual. What is unusual is that the police got involved, an occurrence Judge Howell said was deeply troubling. Both parties called the Metropolitan Police Department for help, putting law enforcement in the middle of a conflict and prompting questions for how officers arrived at the decision to side with the Trump administration. At around 4 p.m. on Monday, Doge and Trump staffers were still trying to enter the building, according to a statement from the police department. That's when the interim U.S. attorney for D.C., Ed Martin is the one who had the email, and he said, "Oh, thanks for telling me. Like usual, I'll get right on top of this." Like he's working for Elon Musk. Because the district does not have statehood, Martin is the district's main prosecutor. He was appointed by the president and is widely regarded as a Trump loyalist. He did not respond to NPR's request for an interview. According to the MPD statement, Martin directed police to a letter saying Moose had been replaced. With that letter in hand, the police asked Moose to leave. The MPD statement detailed more on Martin's direction that day. The USAO provided the contact information for the acting USIP president so MPD members could speak directly with him. The statement said, MPD members met with the acting USIP president, and he provided MPD members with documentation that he was the acting USIP president with all powers delegated to the USIP board of directors to that role. In some ways, this is a fairly routine call, says Vanessa Batters-Thompson, executive director of the D.C. Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. And in other ways, it's very unusual. Police officers are frequently called to situations where it's not immediately clear who's in the right. For instance, in a fight between a landlord and a tenant. Metropolitan Police did what they were trained to do. They went into the building, they notified the people who were there that they were now trespassing, and they got them to leave peacefully. Doge has appointed to that letter as its justification for taking over the institute and involving the police, saying Moose acted unlawfully and refusing to comply. Representatives for the group did not respond to NPR's request for an interview. George is not the acting president. He was removed from his position. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly wrote on social media. George is actually a career bureaucrat who wants to be unaccountable to the American people. The Trump administration won't let him. But the question, Batters-Thompson says, is whether the letter regarding Moose's firing is a valid legal document. The Institute, for its part, is arguing that it is not. The organization has sued the Trump administration, maintaining that it's an independent nonprofit established by Congress and that the administration did not follow the proper steps to remove its leadership. Others agree. Democratic Congressman Don Beyer called Doge's action an illegal power grab and said it weaponized law enforcement. My office says they even picked locks and shit. For an independent, nonprofit corporation, independent of the federal government. I don't know. Shit is getting wild.
Now, obviously, these firms hope that if they can keep their heads down, they can avoid Trump's ire. And reports are coming in that firms are proactively removing pronouns from email signatures and any mention of diversity initiatives, which is incredibly ironic because big law firms loved DEI because it allowed them to point to proactive steps that they were taking while still maintaining the incredible undiverse.
What are you even talking about? Because he was sexting multiple women? Sounds like a pussy move.
Equity partnership ranks. But then there's the firm of Paul Weiss. As Liz mentioned, Trump illegally singled Paul Weiss out. And
actually, I've got the comment on that. Hold on. Did you guys see Elon Musk balancing spoons? There you go.
This drama, all this shit doesn't actually matter. I don't actually care. Okay. All right. This drama, all this shit doesn't actually matter. I don't actually care about this that much. Okay. This is kind of why I think this is important, though. Okay. I've kind of been complaining about this for like.
This is why the left drives away young men.
5 years. All right. But whatever.
You know, for voters over 30, the gender gap was fairly stable at around 10%, which is roughly where it's been in American politics.
Look at the gender gap in voters under 30 compared to the rest of the age groups. At 30, it kind of equals out, or it gets down to within 10%.
And voters over 75, it's even lower.
That's right.
This is unreal. The gap in support between men and women under the age of 30, under the age of 25 especially, swings insanely heavily conservative, all right? This, I'm going to call this the soy slope, okay?
The soy slope.
Be the case. I don't really care.
Like, you can be mad at somebody for getting multiple Snapchats from girls you weren't even fucking dating, hadn't even met. What you can't do is treat it like it's a fucking rape accusation.
Much about the Harry drama. What I do care about, and what is absolutely, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a strong stance on this. I don't give a fuck about it because you think I'm biased or not on it. This is not, okay, I'm going to be honest. With Harry.
These people going on here and basically crying, saying, we're never friends with him. Watch this shit.
Say will be super acceptable. I just saw the title. I'm watching this for the first time. Hopefully he's not reasonable and it doesn't undermine my whole point. Good luck.
I'll let you know, I am not friends with Harry and Chris anymore.
What would the right wing do? The right wing, Destiny says this in a minute, the right wing would just completely ignore it like it doesn't even fucking happen. But worst case scenario, you come out and say, hey, yeah, that's kind of shitty. Maybe you should have been more honest and said, hey, I'm snapping multiple people. But to treat it like this, what the fuck?
Absolutely not. From the conversations that I had with people, I cannot associate with them at all. Like, I'm just gonna be totally frank and totally honest with everyone. I have gone through a lot emotionally in the past few days, and unbelievably so much the past few days, and that's why I haven't been live. I typically am live every single day. Like, y'all know me, I'm live every single day. I personally have been very impacted by this, like, in terms of this emotionally, and I'm very hurt by everything that happened. I'm just gonna be totally frank, everyone, and like, I don't want to like get very emotional in the live because I know how people are gonna like clip it on like on, you know, all the different sides and stuff like that.
It sounds like you're talking about a rape, and these are the largest like progressive debate bros, debate boys. I don't know what you call them on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure.
With Chris and Harry, I don't think right now I'm even in a place where I can adequately give you guys.
You can't. That's not a real person. That's a fucking bot. That's not a real. It's a troll or something. It's not a real person.
Those thoughts in a way that makes sense. Honestly, right now, I'm tired. I'm defeated. And I've gone through so many emotions in the last 2 days.
How many people at 20 years old or less weren't talking to multiple people at the same time? I was.
Like this, we're fucked, okay? If these are our young men's, you know, champions, they're not like bad people. I don't mean to say they're idiots or anything like that, but there's two better options than this. There's a kind of a shitty one that would be the same as the right, or there's the good one. When I started,
there you go, legend.
I'm thinking like, is it possible to ask this from our side? The shitty one is you guys just need to do what the right does.
It had to be. It had to be. That's a troll. Like, it was the same as Andrew Tate, almost.
Which is ignore all of it. Unless it's really, really, really bad. Just say, oh, that, I didn't even hear about that. Nothing happened, or fuck women. Okay, whatever. That's it. And just move on. If you have to, unless it's a serious thing. Or the second thing is, now I don't know if this is like a superhuman request. I don't know if this is literally fucking impossible. But can you not just say, I saw the Harry shit. Yeah, it seems stupid. He fucked up. I don't know why I did that. It was dumb. And then move on. That's it. What is the, what's the quote? When a friend makes a mistake, a friend remains a friend, and the mistake remains a mistake. This shit is actual AIDS cancer.
When a friend makes a mistake, The mistake remains a mistake, and the friend remains a friend.
Sir, Destiny, their female fans will murder them. Good. I think we can shed a few white.
Atsuko fucking did it. I can see it.
Women, so that the other ones grow up. The yas queening environment, the yas lighting of women that get together in a group and they all crawl around in their diapers with pacifiers and they talk about how evil they've been manipulated by men, is fucking retarded. We need to, and then here's my introduction into the lexicon, all right? We need to talk more.
What's crazy is some of these girls were talking to Harry and Chris or whatever the other guy's name is. Like, they're mad at Parker or at Harry because Harry's talking to multiple girls and Snapchatting multiple girls while they're Snapchatting both of the guys. The same pictures.
Or about the fuck zone, all right? Everybody talks about the friend zone. Everybody makes fun of guys who think that if they friend a woman hard enough, she'll magically start dating them, and then they make fun of the guy for doing it. We need to make fun of women that get trapped in the fuck zone.
The fuck zone. Sending nudes and shit and then acting like somebody fucking raped your brains out. This is crazy.
Which is where they start shipping nudes to a guy or they try to fuck a guy over and over again until eventually he'll date me, and then when he doesn't, they're like, oh...
Yes. So basically, this whole ordeal is, as far as I can tell, what I've seen evidence for, is he was talking to multiple girls on Snapchat. He told everyone that I've seen, hey, I don't want anything serious. You know, I'm not commitment, not long-term, blah, blah, blah. But they evidently wanted commitment long-term because when they found out that he was talking to multiple ones, he did tell some of them like, I don't talk to everybody like this. You know, I'm not talking to multiple people, which he shouldn't have lied. Sure, whatever. Still, when he come out with a girlfriend that he was committed with later on, like after he'd been talking to them a while, he ends up deciding to make a commitment with the girl. Then they all freak out and say he fucking was grooming me and I can't believe he did this. That, like, it's so fucking stupid. So fucking stupid.
He gaslit, crazy made, raped me, whatever the fuck. This is fucking retarded. Okay, if you do it, you're just as manipulative as the fucking guy was. You're just as manipulative as an incel friend zone dude.
They sent nudes to him. He sent nudes to them, apparently. He didn't share them. He didn't post them. He didn't do nothing. He was just talking to multiple girls that he never even fucking met. Like, it wasn't like he was dating one and dating another one in a different city. He never even met these people. It was just Snapchat.
Or whatever. And also, but then also as well, let me back up. I'm sorry, I was so excited to be misogynistic. Let me back up. Friend zone and fuck zone, this shit also just happens in late teens, early 20s, late 20s. It happens. People make dumb mistakes. People fuck up in relationships. People get played or led on, or they lose track of their feelings, or...
They're all adults his age. They're all adults his age. I mean, like, he's like 20, so they're all 18 plus, around that age.
They're not accurately understanding where they're at in the other person. These things happen, okay? It happens. Learn your lesson. Move on to the next thing. Not everybody's an abuser.
I got busted for dating, well, fucking. I don't think we were dating. Fucking two different Leslies, and they didn't know about each other until they did.
Not everybody's a manipulator. Not everybody's a gaslighter. Not everybody's crazy making you. Not everything needs to be spread out to the public for everybody to know. And for the love of fucking God, okay? If you are a woman, go talk to your mom and dad or talk to one close friend, okay?
They found out because they both had mutual friends, and those two mutual friends were out talking to each other. And one of them I had kind of hooked up with before. Both of them both of them I had hooked up with before. And they started talking about me. And they're like, oh, I think they'd make a cute couple, William and Leslie, blah, blah, blah. And then one of them's like, yeah, I don't know. And the other one's like, why not? And they're like, well, what are you going to, what do you think will happen when her dad finds out about it? And one of the Leslies, my dad was a football coach. The other Leslie, I didn't even know, no one even knew who her fucking dad was, right? He had nothing to do with me. And they're like, why the fuck would Leslie's dad care if they hooked up or were dating or whatever? And the other woman's like, well, duh, because he's a football coach. And the first one's like, Leslie's dad's a football coach? And the other one's like, yeah, Leslie so-and-so, coach so-and-so. And they're like, no, you're stupid. He's with Leslie, the other Leslie. And they're like, I don't think so. Fucking got me all hemmed up with the Leslies, okay? I thought it was the perfect crime. I could never confuse their names. Never called them once the wrong name.
Okay? Because women are like nuclear reactor cores, in that when you put too many together, it hits critical mass and it becomes really fucking retarded every time. All right. If there are more than 4 women in a group agreeing about how evil some dude is, you're probably on some retarded.
You would think he was like running a fucking mini Epstein Island with teen girls or some shit. Like he was flirting with girls on Snapchat.
Shit. Okay, this shit is so fucking stupid. I cannot believe I'm watching like the largest TikTok personalities disavowing their friend who fucked up. Who
I'll never forget it. I got an image from one of the girls, not one of the Leslies, one of the friends, and they were at our local McDonald's at a table where they had lunch, and in the background was the play place, and they took a selfie of them together and sent it to me and said, "Hey, we were just chatting about you and Leslie." And they were just smiling. My phone blew up so quick, I just turned it off. I just turned it off for the day.
Was like sexting 11 women. Meanwhile, there's like videos of PBD, Fresh and Fit, and fucking Andrew Tate, that the president of the United States, who's civilly held liable for rape, okay? Or asked Romania to send him over here, okay? Who's on camera admitting to trying to fuck a 15-year-old in sex trafficking, okay? Really he is. Those people are like all cool and all the right, and then on the left, like, it's hard for me to summarize my feelings. I thought I could endure, but then the 11th girl came forward that he was trading nudes with. I just couldn't handle it.
The 11th girl came forward. They were trading nudes.
11, like, bro, stop this soy fucking shit. That's okay. That's all I have to say about this. And it's not even like a LOL drama memes. It's like it's actually hurting our fucking political party.
Yes, it's driving young men away.
Okay, now we're lucky in that most of these retards are too young to give a fuck enough to vote. But I don't know how long this shit will.
Yeah, they've spent 2 years talking about how homosexual he was. Now it comes out that he was messaging multiple girls, and they're like, he's a monster.
Okay, we've never seen a divide this big in terms of gender gaps for voting. So if this continues on or continues to expand, it's not good. All right, Jesus fucking Christ.
There you go. There's the perfect response to all of that. To all of that. All right, guys, it's 1:30 in the morning here. I actually started kind of early, right? Yeah, almost 3 hours. Hell yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Please consider supporting the show. It's cheaper than cable. Go to coldbeer.fund where you can keep the show running. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you for being here. Desperate times, desperate measures, all that nonsense. We'll get back to it. Took the night off last night, but we're doing all right tonight, I think. I think the Harry stuff's a bunch of fucking hype. And there are legitimate leftists that are like, I thought you were a champion for women. And then there's other people, like he come out, he said he was sorry, whatever. Go on about your fucking life. But the right's jumping on top of that because he does so well in this space, especially with young people. So fuck that. Should he have done it? Probably not. Honesty's always the best policy. Is it more than like a fucking, oh, well, probably shouldn't do that? No, absolutely not. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Support the show if you want to. I'm out. Love you. See you. Bye.
But I can tell you this about if this douchebag happens to see this particular show, you don't have the fork and balls to call out the people on this planet.
I'm fucking Coomer brain.
Exactly who they are and telling the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the fork and balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott.
Here we go. I think I started some shit. Listen off. It's about to get lit. Get the place.
This is my Coomer arc.
Stage is set. You better buckle up because you ain't seen none yet. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Listen off. It's about to get
the Gooner arc.
bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6th sense for the stupid shit. Where my true believers? Y'all need Jesus. Praise the Lord, head to the extreme. All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping drums, cocking, begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat hammers like Thor in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, beating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard. of people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped it to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "This is gonna be it." Whoa, wait. Stop. What? I'll get my files. What are you doing? Stop. Hold on. Fucking stop. Dude, come on. Seriously. My mom's an alcoholic. Oh, give me a... Oh, my God. Damn it. Here we go. I think I started some shit.
That's my favorite line is, "This is why mom's an alcoholic."
You know that stage.
Have a good one, guys.
You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go. I think I started some shit.